And we are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Monday morning in episode 3089 of the Survival Podcast. And did I say Monday morning? It's not morning, is it? It's 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, at least if you're listening to this live or tuning in live. And that's because today is a late start day. Just have a ton of things coming up. Quick announcement here at the beginning. I don't know what Thursday will bring. It might be an expert council show. That's a show that's usually pretty easy for me to just knock out and get done. But I am going to be at Exit and Build in Belton, Texas, which is just to the south of the Austin area on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of this coming week. And that means I have to leave Thursday afternoon. And I will be down there for John Bush's Exit and Build seminar. And one of his featured speakers, and also doing a panel on Sunday. So I'll be speaking on Friday, panel on Sunday, hanging out with any of you guys that are coming on down for Exit and Build throughout the weekend. And that means definitely there will not be a survival podcast Friday, but there's going to be a rewind, I should say. So there won't be a new one. And then Thursday, I don't know if it'll be a rewind or not. I have not yet figured that out. I'm in scramble mode and just giving a little bit of stall here at the beginning to let people come onto the live stream if they want to. The other thing we're doing different today, I'm going to actually hit the sponsor spots at the beginning here for a variety of reasons, but I also try to get the sponsors as much exposure as possible. And a lot of you guys tune into the live feed. And I've also noticed since I've started doing the videos, I'm getting a lot more views on a video than if I just put out a video on like a plant or something like that. So I'm getting 1,000 video views or more in addition to the live folks. So some people seem to be switching over to the video format. They prefer that. So I think it's fair to the sponsor. So who are our sponsors today? Well, one's going to fit really good with today's topic because we're going to be talking about Bitcoin and Lightning a little bit today. And the topic of today's show is let's just blow up some belief systems. So this is kind of really, I'm tricking you, a little bit of an Outback with Jack episode, variety topics, but it's all going to be stuff that like flies in the face of what you probably believe, or at least some of it will, hence the title. But sponsor day number one today is Start9 Embassy Servers. Guys, they have a lot of cool stuff on the way. As cool as the initial boxes, which I got my little one right back here just out of the side of the camera. I saw some of their new stuff at Float Fest. They're going to blow the world up. You want to get involved with Start9 because it will let you take your digital sovereignty back. And it's the easiest way I know to run a Bitcoin node. Or, I'm sorry, not a Bitcoin node, a Bitcoin Lightning node. We're going to be talking about Lightning today as well. And I'll tell you in that segment why, if you really want to be your own banker, then Lightning is something you want to be part of. And I'm also going to tell you how to use Lightning if you don't want to be your own bank, if that's just a slogan to you. And it'll make more sense when we have that segment. Then how you can use Lightning with like no technical knowledge whatsoever. But if you want to run a node, if you want to take back complete control of like storing all your files, your communications with other people, make sure it's 100% like military grade encrypted, even when you talk to your mom, because why not? Why not make those jerks work really hard to find out that your mom wanted you to pick up some bread for her when you came over to visit? Why not? Like, let's let their resources go to stupidity if that's what they want to do with them. And you can do all that and more with Start9. You can learn more at start9.com. Next up today, ButcherBox. I love ButcherBox. I love ButcherBox because every month a big-ass box of meat comes to my front gate right out there. It's always fantastic. I love the quality of the meat. I stick mostly to the beef on the plan because I believe beef is the most nutritious thing that we can easily put our hands on. I also love lamb. I love all ruminants, red meat ruminants, man. I think are the way to go for the best nutritional value in our bodies. But I also pick up some of their pasture chicken and stuff like that. And I've been picking up some of their stuff with salmon lately. They've added these little salmon bites, which I thought were great until I got them. And many of you will love them anyway, but they have a lot of sugar because of the coating that's on them. But they also have like a smoked salmon lox, L-O-X, and it is delicious, and it is no sugar. So those are some other things that you can check out. One of my favorite things, guys, to eat for breakfast, like at first when I went keto, I was like, man, I'm going to miss lox, bagels, and cream cheese. That's some good stuff. But what I've been doing, and I don't miss the bagel part at all. I guess years now of being keto. I take the salmon lock, I put some cream cheese on it. Jalapeno is kind of my favorite, but any plain, whatever. Take a good sprinkle, everything bagel seasoning, and roll it up like a little salmon roll. And I make 5 or 6 of those little salmon rolls, and they're delicious for breakfast. Lots of fat, lots of protein, lots of nutrition. Really easy to do. Takes a couple seconds. 5 minutes, you're done. Another 5 minutes, it's 8. You're on with your day. ButcherBox has all kinds of cool stuff, not just poultry and beef and pork. Check it out today, butcherbox.com. Remember, if you are a MSB member, you get $10 off a box for life. That's $120 a year, and you can support me through the MSB then and get all your money back on one vendor. All right, so let us dig into this. Ooh, interesting question there from Alan. We'll come back to it, but I think we'll actually hit it pretty hard. Alan says, should we treat crypto like any other investment? We should treat crypto like an investment. I don't think we should treat any investment like any other investment. But we'll get to that when we come back to it. Let's start talking about what we got going on today. I want to start out with what is Bitcoin Lightning and how it's a game changer. And this is a blow up your opinion or blow up your belief system, in that most people, even people that are pretty heavily into Bitcoin, would agree with the statement. The problem with Bitcoin is the transactions are slow and expensive. Okay, so I'm going to blow that up for you as well. Bitcoin transactions are not slow and they're not expensive. But if you're buying a $5 item from a retailer who doesn't understand the confirmation of send, they might as well just consider it as confirmed. They don't need to wait for 3 or whatever confirmations. It can be somewhat slow, and it can definitely be expensive if you're buying a $5 coffee with pure Bitcoin. That's where Lightning steps in. And for all the people who are like, you know what, man? Shitcoin B is so good because it uses proof of stake, man. And because of that and its cooperative nature, it's so fast and efficient and blah, 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 blah. Well, then you can think of Lightning if you really want to. And it's a pretty good way to think of it is you can think of Lightning like proof of stake using Bitcoin. So what happens in a Lightning node, and you don't have to know any of this to use it. I'm about to show you a quick video that shows you how you can use it in Exodus. Like, even if you don't know, if every word I'm about to use doesn't make any sense, you'll still be able to use it. But just so you understand, a node is a device on a network. It's a computer on a network. We have nodes for the Bitcoin network. We have miners running nodes with their mining, but we have people that just run nodes on the Bitcoin network. And what those nodes do is they allow for what's known as triple entry accounting, triple entry. So the entire world outside of Bitcoin is still using very archaic, thousands of years old technology called double entry accounting. You buy something from me or you sell something to me, and I write down I paid or received X and I gave or received Y. And I keep my own books. And there's no third party authenticating that transaction. Right? And you keep your own books. If we're too now, regular people don't do this ledger entry stuff, right? But businesses do. So when one business transacts with another business, they make those journal entries: bought and received A and B, bought or received and sent A and B. Okay. Now the problem is discrepancy. I say I did it, you say I didn't. I say I paid you, you say I didn't pay you. I say I shipped you a thing, you say I didn't ship you a thing. And what do we rely on today? Some third party. UPS says that there was a shipping label printed and that they picked the package up and they delivered it at your front door. Okay, great. Was the thing that I said in it even in it? How do we know? We have to trust the system. Here's a check that says I completed payment and it says you cashed it, but did you really cash it? There's a lot of discrepancy, right? What if you can eliminate discrepancy? Well, that's what Bitcoin does in of itself by having all these miners. And I don't even like the word miners. They should be called something like transaction verifiers. And then they're rewarded. You want to call it mining rewards? Go ahead, right? But basically, that's the purpose of mining. The purpose of mining is not to make more Bitcoin. That's a byproduct. The purpose of mining is Jack Spirico sends Margaret here, that's in our chat right here. I'm going to pick on Margaret. I send her, I don't know, $25 worth of Bitcoin because Margaret is selling something on Etsy and she takes Bitcoin. And I say, hey, where's my shit, Margaret? I sent it. I sent the Bitcoin. And she says, no, you didn't. You did not. It didn't happen. I didn't get it, whatever. Well, with these nodes operating, okay, and Scramblin saying Odyssey crashed. Yeah, I killed Odyssey. It started throwing up error codes, so I killed it off, and we'll try again tomorrow. But when I start getting error codes from a destination on a podcast source or a live stream source, I shut it down so it doesn't keep popping up and distracting. Anyway, the nodes all say, here's the address that Margaret gave. Here's the Bitcoin that Jack sent. And it did happen. And here's the confirmations. And there it is. It's right there. Everybody can go look at it. That's why having to make it 100% private is not necessarily necessary or advantageous in all situations. And then we can look at it and say, hey, Margaret, there's your address. That's the address you gave. Here's a communication. It's there. And it's way beyond that. It's the fact that there is this network of nodes verifying this. So that's what a node does in a Bitcoin network. Well, what does it do in a Lightning network? What it does in a Lightning network is it enables fast, quick, cheap transactions off-chain. So when you put money into a Lightning wallet, which we'll talk about how to do in a second, I'm just going to play a video. It'll show you how to do it. It's no longer available on the chain. Now you can see where it was, and it's just kind of gone. This is why it has a lot of privacy features, especially with something called Taproot we won't get into today. And then it goes node to node to node through these devices that are serving as a network. And it comes, and then so Margaret sends me money on Lightning because I bought a $5 product. And that $5 comes to me. And this is not as secure or as guaranteed, I guess, would be not even guaranteed. It's not as traceable. So you want privacy, you give up traceability. But I send this $5 to Margaret. She'll get it in about 2 seconds. It'll cost me about a penny to send her that $5. She'll have that $5 in her Lightning wallet, and we can transact and do things. But we've kind of, sort of, in a way, left the realm of the triple entry accounting gold standard Bitcoin is set. But we're every bit as good as the normal financial network. Now, what if I want to buy from Margaret something that's like $10,000. I want to buy a boat with Bitcoin. I wouldn't use Lightning. It's not what it's for. Lightning is, I'm going to go out and tear it up with my boys this weekend. We're going to hit the bars. And even though I got a credit card and stuff, I need cash, so I can settle bills and stuff at the bar, buy a beer. Maybe if I go, like we're going to bar hop, I'm going to go into a bar. I'm going to have one beer with my boys. And we're going to go to the next bar. I don't want to open up a tab for that, right? I want to have some cash on me. Maybe it'll be a guy selling hot dogs in the street or something. We'll be hungry and hungover and drunk. I want to be able to buy that. He might not take. So I go to the bank and I say, weekend, turn up with my boys. I want $200. Take $200 out, cash, put it in your pocket. What's more secure, the cash or the cash in a box at home buried in a safe in the ground, or money in the bank, right? Well, money in the bank and the cash in the box you can argue about, but we both would agree that they're more secure than the cash in the pocket. Lightning is the cash in the pocket. It's for small transactions. If you wanted to buy a boat for $10,000 and you were going to pay US dollars, you probably wouldn't go out and pay in $100 bills. You would want proof of the transaction. So you'd write a check. So you would have verifiability, and you'd have a semi version of triple entry accounting because there'd be a check that ran through the bank system that went to the guy on the other side of the transaction. Bitcoin, that traceable transaction, think of Lightning for cash transactions. And this solves this whole dilemma of how do I pay for my coffee and my scone in Bitcoin if I really want to spend sats to do that? And so this all sounds complicated, but real quick before I give you the video, that back to that node, if I run a Bitcoin node, then I have to put some Bitcoin on the front side and the back side of the node. That's my stake. And what that says, if I behave badly, now Margaret's sending Bitcoin to Scramblin, right? And I'm like, I think I'll steal that Bitcoin. Now, it's very difficult to do, but let's say I managed to do it. And the network looks at it and says, hey, Jack's a jackass. He stole the Bitcoin. They'll take my stake away. So much like people say, well, if you had enough horsepower, you could turn it on a network and you could take over with a 51% attack. Even a shit network like, I don't know, Bitcoin Cash or something, 1% of the Bitcoin mining network, 1% of the Bitcoin mining network could completely take over the Bitcoin Cash network. The reason it doesn't happen is if you have that much horsepower, the best thing you can do is participate in it's more profitable to participate in the network than it is to go and alter the network. It's part of the security, right? Bitcoin's just so big, it's difficult, if not impossible, to get enough horsepower together and attack the Bitcoin network. But if you did it, it would be far more profitable to be part of it, right? So that's what Lightning is, and it's not Litecoin. That's a totally different thing. Lightning is a protocol built on top of the Bitcoin protocol. So I have that stake on both sides. So if I screw either side of the transaction, I lose my stake. Meaning, if I have $1,000 staked, 500 and 500, I will never have more than $1,000 worth of transactions routed through my node, so that there's always enough to cover the transaction on the other side. Now, let's say you're like, you know what, Jack? I don't care. I don't give two shits about all that. I just want it to work, and I just want to use it. I'm about to give you a video that shows you if you have the Exodus wallet, then you can do that right now, and you don't have to understand a word I said. But I like people to understand things. Mike, I do want to say to Mike here, who's got laser eyes on his profile, thank you for the $19.99 super chat. I appreciate that. All right, so here we go. This is a video by the people that made the Exodus wallet, showing you how you can, in fact, right now, use Lightning this second. And I'm going to come back and maybe, I don't know, if somebody's got good AV, you already have Exodus set up. You don't have to set up Exodus. I might bring somebody on and give them $5 in Lightning just to show you how quickly it can be done in real life. Let's see if I can make that happen.
Crypto videos. Hit those like and subscribe buttons and we'll keep the videos coming. Lightning has arrived in Exodus Mobile. The Lightning Network operates as a Layer 2 protocol on top of the Bitcoin network. Decentralized and peer-to-peer, it makes sending and receiving Bitcoin, including micropayments, private and fast, with super low fees. When you first open Lightning, read and accept the terms and conditions, then it's off to the races. Lightning in Exodus is powered by Wallet of Satoshi, which is a custodial solution that allows you to use the Lightning Network without setting up your own node. Your Lightning wallet is linked to your existing 12-word secret recovery phrase, so there's no additional backup needed or account setup required. Transfer Bitcoin from your Exodus Bitcoin wallet to your Lightning wallet in just a few taps. For now, you can deposit up to $100 US. Tap deposit, then enter an amount by adjusting the slider, or type an amount manually, either in fiat currency or in Bitcoin. Finally, tap add. Your funds will arrive as soon as the transaction is confirmed on the blockchain. You can receive Bitcoin from another Lightning wallet by generating a Lightning invoice. Tap on receive and tap on the invoice to copy it, or scan the QR code. You can also share the invoice by tapping the share button and using the app of your choice. If you'd like to send Bitcoin on the Lightning Network, tap on Send and enter the Lightning invoice. You can scan an invoice's QR code by tapping on the QR code icon. Keep in mind that invoices expire after 24 hours. You can withdraw Bitcoin from your Lightning wallet at any time by tapping Withdraw and selecting the Exodus portfolio where you'd like to send your Bitcoin. You can see the withdrawal fee by tapping on Advanced. You can see your entire transaction history by tapping on the History icon. If you're curious, tap on a specific transaction to see all the details. Because Lightning transactions are off-chain, they are private, meaning that the details are never broadcast on-chain. And not only are network fees incredibly low, transactions are, as maybe you've guessed by its name, lightning fast. It's something you have to experience for yourself. Thanks for watching, everyone. We have a lot.
All right, so it's that easy. And I'm waiting for Jake to join us here in the room. If he doesn't do it soon, we'll give Jake's $5 to somebody else. Sal's here heckling again. He said, if it's so easy, then 51% attack Bitcoin Cash. I didn't say I could do it. I didn't say it was easy. I said 1% of the Bitcoin network can, by mathematics alone, take over the Bitcoin Cash network. But Bitcoin people have better things to do. Jake's telling me he's here by text message. Jake, I need you to get in the room. If you can't get in the room, I'll bring somebody else on. I need you in the conference room. I need you to click the link I left for you Can you do that? Let me know, Jake. You have to have a camera and a microphone to be ready. There he is. Okay, he's here. All right, let's bring Jake on. Look at Jake's lost some freaking weight, man. All right, Jake. So do you have your mobile device?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Have you ever used Lightning before?
No, I have not.
You have not. Do you have a node?
No.
So have you haven't set up a node on Lightning and you haven't funded both sides of it for Sal, so Sal can figure this out, right?
No,
you haven't done it. Okay, can you open Exodus for me?
I'm opening it on my phone.
Yeah, open Exodus on your phone. It's only on mobile for now on Exodus.
Okay. It's open.
Okay, and then at the bottom you'll see like where you can pick your options, and there's like 4 little squares. Can you click that for me, Jake?
Hold on.
Jake can't work Exodus. I picked the wrong person for him.
It's just listing all my
listen all your stuff, pull down on it, and at the bottom you should see like a little circle, some arrows, and then 4 little squares. See, I knew I shouldn't have took Jake. Actually, it's good because it shows this isn't a setup.
Okay.
You should see 4 little. You see what I'm saying? You
okay. Now I see it. Yep.
Okay, hit those 4 little squares.
Okay.
Okay.
It's telling me to buy crypto.
Don't buy crypto. Close that, and you should see a thing that says shares, EDXX, FTX, Lightning. Click on Lightning.
Okay.
And even though you're a little slow, I think you'll be able to set it up. Just follow the prompts. Okay. Set it up.
Accept terms and conditions. Receive and deposit.
Yep. Okay. Click on receive.
Okay.
And you should bring up an invoice.
Yeah, I've got a QR code.
Yeah, you could set a price for me on that invoice, but since I don't trust you and I don't want to have you like have to take another step, all you have to do is you can copy the invoice just like it's an address instead of the QR code.
So just long press and copy the long.
Yep. Click on it.
Copy.
You should figure it out.
Then you want me to text
it? Now text that to me.
Okay.
Now this is his first time. This is once he's done this, we would be done already.
Yeah, I wouldn't have to set it up. All right.
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't have to explain. So now I've got his Lightning address. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to open Exodus. And I'm sure Sal's going to talk about all of the steps in here. And we're just doing this way. I'm about to bring something to you guys even better in just a second. But I just want to show. So now I'm going to send Jake.
So I'm going to show zero BTC in my.
Yeah. Wallet. Okay. So now I'm going to. I've pasted it. And I'm going to change it to US dollars because I don't want to send you 5 Bitcoins. All right. Enter.
That would be nice.
Okay, next. Okay. Right now I'm going to hit slide to transfer in real time. Okay. Right. Sending. Transaction in progress. Sent. Look at your wallet. Maybe refresh it.
I just heard it.
Yeah, you just got $5. There he is. It's done. How much is in there, Jake?
.0001591 BTC. $5.
Yeah, $5. So the transaction was effectively 0.
But I'm glad you sent it to me when it's like 33,000 a Bitcoin.
Yeah, you just bought the dip by participating in it. So I'm gonna throw you out now, but thanks for that, Jake. All right, so I don't want to ban from studio. Hold on, let's kick him out. We're gonna kick him out. Okay, he's gone. All right, guys. So that's how simple that is. That's how quick that was, and he can then move that $5 off the Lightning network to the main chain anytime he wants. There is a fee for that. I think on Exodus, it's a fixed fee no matter the amount of $1.19. Remember what I said, though. It's pocket money. It's spending money. So Jake should leave that in there. What if something goes wrong and he loses it? It's $5. It's like carrying cash. It's for your small, cheap, fast transactions. But we're not done yet. Oh, no. I want you to see this. This is a website that I just learned about. It's called the Lightning Address. And what it does is it effectively turns an email address into a Lightning invoice on demand all the time that can be triggered from either side. One of the the criticism of Lightning, and this was true when it came out 5 years ago, and it was brand new technology, was that both sides had to be online. It kind of had to be like what Jake and I did, but it was more complicated. We had to have our own nodes. Sal's all worried about some poor lady in sub-Saharan Africa funding a node or something as though she can't install this. Oh, boy. I don't want to make this personal or nothing, but Mike just labeled freaking Sal. Sal, do you want me to send you Roger Ver's Lightning address? That's interesting. Anyway, so you might think this is no big deal. That basically you can have you at, coincorner.io or whatever. There's lots of different extensions to this, and they're predicated on the app that they're used on. But what this does is, since email is for sending and receiving information, and that's all that it is, it uses basically email protocol to set up a method by which we can generate and receive to invoices on demand, meaning that we can put Lightning in any app or on any website. For instance, here's a couple websites, or actually apps, that are using it right now. You can see there's a whole list of them there. What is it? 3, 6, about 16, with more coming every day. And this is an open protocol that anybody can use. And so to eliminate the need for people to do what you just saw Jake and I do, and to enable to where, and there's actually one of these apps is designed to integrate with WordPress to allow Lightning payments to like your e-commerce store, right? So all this bullshit that it can't do these things, this is all based on what the thing was when it was first created versus all the technology being built with it. So I, for instance, just found out about the email protocol, and one of these, it is TipBot, which is kind of on the right side of your screen there, about halfway down. It's for Telegram. You open up a conversation with the bot on Telegram, and that's it. You are up and ready to go. It gives you your instructions. You can deposit Lightning, and then all you have to do is reply to somebody you want to tip on Telegram, and I think you put in /tip, and the amount you want to tip them in Satoshis. So basically, learn how Bitcoin pricing works when you're going to use something like that. But instantly, you can tip somebody. You want to tip somebody a dime. Like Jake finally said something that didn't piss you off. So you're like, you know what? I'll give him a dime. Jack gave him $5. I'll give Jake a dime. You can tip him a dime, right? Every single thing that every altcoin claims that you can do with micro tipping, you can now not only do with Lightning, but it's easier to integrate than it is with anything else. Because if you can integrate email into your app, and then you can throw the back end through something like Wallet of Satoshi, which, by the way, Sal loves Wallet of Satoshi, from my understanding. Well, there you go. It's done. It would be, if you know how to build an app from scratch, integrating Lightning now into it is easier than building an app. The skill set would be one of the same. That doesn't mean I can write an app and I can do it. But if I'm an app writer, I can do it. Now think about that. Think about the ability to enable transactions at the speed that I just showed you with Jake on every app, on every website, everywhere in the world, with no ability to stop it. Because one more thing before we move on from Lightning today. Lightning uses onion routing. I've talked about it before, so I'll go fast here. But what that means is, as the transaction goes through the Lightning nodes, there's layers like an onion. And the information that actually is the right information, the correct information, is one layer. And the onion gets peeled. But every time it goes to the next node, a fake layer goes back on. So the nodes don't even know if they're the first or the last in the transaction. They don't know anything. They have no clue. So look, this is earth-shattering, game-changing for crypto. It really is. And it's something I wanted you guys to know about. And I want to leave from Bitcoin, at least for a bit now, and I want to go to something completely different. But I do want to remind you right at this moment that when this live stream's over, you will be able to go to my website, thesurvivalpodcast.com, and there's a direct link to the permalink for this episode. It won't work during the live stream, but you'll be able to go there after it's over, and you will be able to get all the stuff that I've talked about, links to everything, including the video that I showed you, the Lightning address website, and the Lightning tip bot for Telegram, which you would have found at the other place anyway. But let's bring the slides back up here for a minute and go to something totally different. This came off of Twitter. And I've been on Twitter a lot lately since the Elon effect took over. And it's not because I believe Elon's going to save the world. It's because when I put something on Twitter now, people actually see it. My shadow ban has been lifted. But this map, if you're looking at it on the screen, all the green is all the farmland in the United States of America that is suitable, okay, suitable for high rotation, high intensity cropping. Corn, wheat, sorghum, canola, which is really rapeseed, all of the main cereal, grain, and tuber crops that feed the world, rice, etc. That's it. Now, the person that posted this was trying to make a point of how little farmland like this we actually have. And if you look at it, there's not much available on the East Coast. There's not much available on the West Coast except that strip of California that produces a lot of the produce outside of those grains, like your peppers, your tomatoes, and everything like that. Like a ton of that comes from that little strip in there in California. And then up by the Columbia River Valley, you can see that there's some up there too in Washington, a little bit in Montana, right on the Canadian border, into the eastern Dakotas, etc. Colorado, Kansas, Kansas heavily covered with it. I'm giving this detailed information for those that will hear the audio only. Now, coming down from the Great Lakes, you'll see that it goes on right alongside the Mississippi River all the way to the bottom of Louisiana to the Gulf of Mexico. Then you'll see a little green dot right down there near a place called Lake Okeechobee in South Florida. There's an interesting phenomenon going on here. First of all, and I'm going to explain it, but I'm going to tell you my conclusion from it first, which I already had before I saw it so graphically shown this way. We can't continue to farm our way to feeding the population from a standpoint of field farming. We can't. It is unsustainable from a standpoint of keeping people alive, and we're starting to come to terms with that right now. Now, Brandon, with his ridiculous policies, has accelerated it, but it's a place we would get to anyway, because we just won't be able to keep mining this area to produce these things by dumping chemicals on them. But look how much, and then the other side of this is, I want you to think about the fact that we have more farmland than almost any country in the world. Not every, but almost every country in the world has less farmland than us. In total, and even by percentage. Again, not all, because somebody will find some, but most. We have a lot of farmland. We are the breadbasket of the world. Always have been. And yet it's only that much. But look how much land. Look how much land there is that's not suitable. It's a lot more. Now, do you know what we can do? Like, look how little there is in Texas. Right? Texas is a huge state, but it's only that little bit over there in the Panhandle, Four Corners area, and up around the Red River on the border with Oklahoma, streaming down there, and then a little bit down in the southern end, down by where like the Brazos empties into the Gulf of Mexico and things like that. But what is Texas known for? More than anything else is an agricultural product. Beef, cows, ruminants. We can run cattle in all the white area on the map, almost all of it. Not every bit of it, but let's say 75% of it easily, except like down your main street. But we can even run in urban areas and suburban areas and little strips and stuff. We can run other ruminants like hair sheep, and we can get lamb and mutton. And it's incredibly high quality, high protein, high density, needing very little supplementation for anything else. We can run that too. What's the other problem though? Do you know how Jack always tells you, and maybe sounds a little bit crazy, that the #1 export in the United States is topsoil? You know, I say that all the time, and you're like, that can't be. We can't export more topsoil than anything. We don't even get paid for it, for God's sakes. Look at where the green is. Let's go back up. Top left-hand corner, Columbia River Valley, Washington State, a little bit of Oregon. So it's right there on the river. Now, one, we do pump river water, do some agriculture, but that's not my bigger concern. It rains up there, so we get some rain. But where does all the topsoil, where does all the herbicide, where's all the pesticide, where that green dot is up there in the Washington State area go? Well, it goes into the Columbia River Basin and dumps into the Pacific Ocean. Now, look at that green strip there in California. That green strip ends down right about where Los Angeles is. There's a thing called the LA River, and it's fed by all of that stuff up there. And there's various other points where you see bays like San Francisco Bay. And where does it all go? Into the Pacific Ocean. All the topsoil, all the herbicide, all the pesticide. And there are some problems over there. But the Pacific's really cold. It's really deep. If you've ever been to the Pacific versus the Atlantic, it's a deep blue. And there's only so much going in there. Now, look at that little place. It looks like a boot called Louisiana. Now, start following that green up all the way to the Great Lakes. When you get to where the Great Lakes are and you see the little hand that is Michigan, go to the left, the longer side of the V there. What goes up there? Does anybody know, up into the Dakotas and all coming off that way? Isn't that something called the Missouri River? Right? Where do you think, how much of that line that goes up and it splits into a Y on the Great Lakes, how much of that is river basin? Almost all of it. So where's all the topsoil, herbicide, and pesticide from those farms go? It goes eventually into the Mississippi River. And that's why right down there by that little boot-looking thing that is the state of Louisiana, there is something like an 1,800 square mile dead zone every year where we literally kill everything in the ocean. Huh? Let's look at another spot. So you'll notice right in the middle of the country there, Kansas especially, you see this massive swath of green, and there ain't a lot of rivers going through there. But what are we doing there in Four Corners area, pieces of Oklahoma and all? We do get some trickling into the Mississippi River Valley, and we do get some into the Red River of Texas, which eventually gets, and it goes kind of the same place, and down there in the boot of Louisiana and kills all those things. But there's a lot of that where it really isn't dependent on the river system, and it doesn't really directly go into the river system. It just blows away in the wind. Where's the water come from? I mean, does anybody think of Kansas as a really wet state? No, it's kind of dry, isn't it? That's where the Ogallala Aquifer is, where we're literally mining fossil water. We're pumping water from ancient sea under the country, and the water is literally drying up. If you look out into western Texas, where it's really dry as shit, they grow a lot of cotton out there, and they're completely dependent on circular irrigation pulling out of the Ogallala Aquifer. And what's happening is that green area is getting smaller and smaller and smaller as basically think of the aquifer instead of this big round thing as a lake with all these arms in it. And when your lake starts to dry up, the arms dry up first. So some of these West Texas towns, they happen to be on a massive underground arm of this giant freshwater sea that we've pumped and pumped and pumped to the point where they're drying up. Now, it's interesting to listen to environmental people tell us how cattle are bad for ecosystems and ignore all that. And so, yeah, I almost left this out. I need to put that back in. Thanks for pointing that out, Brian or Brianne. Down there where that little green spot is in Florida, if you haven't heard of the red tides in South Florida, you should have. The environmental catastrophe being created there about every couple of years is unbelievable. And the one that hit about 2.5, 3 years ago was, I mean, God, if you would have seen it for yourself like I did, you might have thought, if you couldn't travel other places and see other places and you only saw it there, that one of the seals in the book of Revelation had been broken. I'm talking Goliath grouper, the size of a small car, washing up on shore dead. Tarpon, the length of my desk here, washing up on shore dead by the hundreds and thousands. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dead fish. Sal says last year was bad too. It actually wasn't compared to the year I'm talking about. Not that I'm not putting down what Sal's saying at all. I'm just saying, to put it in perspective, that what happened this year was minor by comparison. None of this has to happen. We could fix the entire Mississippi River system for about $50 billion. It's a rounding error in the federal budget, and we could do it, and it wouldn't prevent, even if we stay with conventional farming, we could stop it for that, and we won't do it. If we switched over to a system that was based on production of ruminants and things like pastured poultry, We could feed the entire country. We'd have the largest export market for meat, which is a high dollar export market that the world has ever known. And we could put an end to all of this. And I've just shown you one part of why. Just one part of why. But what you always have to remember is that first, Savannah ecosystems, which are trees with plains in between them, are the most productive ecosystems on planet Earth. And they produce more topsoil and anything close to land than anything other than shallow marine. So down there where Sal lives in Florida, if you look at the amount of topsoil produced in the mangroves, et cetera, that exceeds. There's immense soil building in those systems. That's where a lot of those islands came from. They literally built themselves over time in those shallow marine systems. But when it comes to terrestrial systems, nothing beats the Savannah. Number two, if you want to clean the air, plant a tree. Number three, if you want to clean the groundwater, plant trees. Trees are the lungs and the liver of Earth is how you have to think about it. So if we build systems that are tree-lined savanna systems and move ruminants through them, we build topsoil, we stop erosion, we produce food, and we have almost no inputs. The only real inputs that they need are water, right? We have to make sure they have water. Well, a lot of these places, that's not even an issue. The water's there. But this whole idea, one of the things that the people that are, anti-meat have come up with is that like the cow uses X amount of water. And they ignore the thing called the water cycle. Like, what happens to you if you go out and you drink a couple quarts of water? What do you have to do pretty quick? You have to pee. If you're a cow, where do you pee? On the ground. Where's the pee go? Into the ground. Right? What happens? Like, when you drink a glass of water, there's a really good possibility that at least a few molecules of that water were Tyrannosaurus Rex piss at one time in ancient history. Water completely and totally recycles. And if we stop the erosion in the runoff, we're gonna also have massive numbers of small creeks restored, small watersheds restored, small ponds restored. And we can put this in and we can create, and then we create the trees. And then what do the trees do? Again, we talked about what they do, but here's another thing that they do. They actually think of it as respiration. It's called transpiration. So trees take water up out of the ground, and they take more than they absolutely need to survive. And then like you sweat, they transpire. And the more trees you have, the more rain you get. And we can actually look at the molecules of water, the individual H2O molecules of water. I'm hoping this is blowing some minds, all right? Because if it isn't, you're missing how much you've been lied to and how much you should have been taught that you weren't. We can look at the density of a water molecule. All water molecules are the same, but they're not all exactly the same. Bill Mollison hypothesized this in the 80s. He was called an idiot for it. And by the late 90s, early 2000s, scientists came out and said, hey, we discovered all by ourselves, and we deserve a Nobel Prize for this. You can actually look at water in rain, and you can say by the density of the molecule, this water was created by ocean effect or by forest effect, proving the old man right. But nobody gave him any credit. And he's on video saying it back in the 1980s in Florida. Okay? Got it? Like, this is not something we don't know. This is something we deny. So if we plant more trees, stop the erosion, stop the use of the fertilizers, the pesticides, etc., the dead zones in the ocean, we get more rain, we get more water retention, we get less erosion, we stop having to irrigate entire fields, I think we might actually have a little bit better of a planet. But see, that doesn't help the people that want to tax you for the air you exhale in any way, shape, or form. By the way, without looking it up, I challenge any of you that believe in the global warming theory to give me the 4 feedbacks. And if you don't know what they are, like not can't list them, but you don't even know what I'm talking about, and you say, well, I listen to the experts I know. No, you don't, because you would know the 4 feedbacks. They're not Jack Spirko's 4 feedbacks. They're the freaking IPCC's 4 feedbacks that are the entire thing behind the theory. And it's amazed me that no one has ever told me I'm stupid because I don't believe in global warming or climate change or whatever the hell they call it now as being caused by CO2 can give me the 4 feedbacks. Like, they don't know the 4 just by name. You don't have to explain them. Just give me the names. What are the 4 feedbacks? Most of you don't know. You don't have to know. But if you're going to say I listen to the experts and you don't have an answer to that question, I question the experts that you're listening to. Let us move on. I want to talk about something kind of crazy right now. what really pushed me all the way over into anarchism. Like all the way over the line. Many of you followed me back in 08, 09, 2010, 2011, 2012-ish. And you remember Jack is just really reasonable, small government, small L, libertarian. Jack Spirko, who ran for office in the state of Texas. Jack Spirko, who dutifully called his senators and his congressmen and his local officials and was politically active. Jack Spirko, that Jack Spirko. And I lost a lot of people. Like people said when I kind of made the full switch in 2014 from libertarian to libertarian anarchist, he just did that because it increases his listener base. Bullshit. Bullshit. You know what it did? It cost me at the time, I'm bigger now than I was then, but at the time, it cost me half my audience to do that. And I knew it would before I did. Let me say that again. I was making a full-time living doing this. This is my business. This is a child I gave birth to. And by saying it, I knew it would cost me half of my listeners, and it did. It absolutely did, because I had a lot of true believers in the system. And true believers in the system, some of y'all made it through that with me. Some of you still believe. And you made it through anyway. But a lot of people didn't. It hurt me. It hurt me bad. So what made me do it? Food Modernization Act of 2010. That was the thing that started the chain of events. And now it's happening again in Australia. So the Food Modernization Act in 2010 was a bill that was a terrible bill. It became law, terrible law. And what it did is it put tracking and tracing into our food supply. And the reasoning was if some little girl gets sick, gets E. coli in Wisconsin, and it's because she ate lettuce, be great if we knew where that lettuce came from, could go right to the source and stop it so that nobody else would get it. But also we could find all the lettuce in the supply chain that could be tainted and remove it. That's how they sold it. And to be fair, on some levels, that's what it was. That's what it was. It did do that. It also did it with an incredibly unfair burden, especially as initially written to small-scale producers. Meaning, I had to comply with this. Like, if this would have happened when I was commercial duck farming with the eggs, and there was no thing called a tester amendment added to it, I would have had to RFID track my duck eggs to my customer. I would have done it. I am an anarchist after all. I would have been like, yeah, if you have time to come screw with me, fine. But a little bit larger operations, people doing a couple, $250,000 a year in business, selling into main distribution systems, it would have destroyed them. It would have destroyed them. So it was a bad bill for that and some other reasons. But most of the powers in that bill already existed. What it did is consolidated powers that were in like 3 agencies into a single agency. But that's in essence what it was. But do you guys who are around, do you remember how Alex Jones marketed it? Right? Do you remember how all of the fringe marketed it? It's going to make having a backyard garden illegal. It makes saving seeds illegal. It on and on and on. You won't be able to barter your food with your neighbor. And like, it had nothing to do with backyard gardens or growing your own food, but it could have hurt small producers. So I pointed this out, and I was called everything from a statist cuck to everything else in between you can come up with on it. And I didn't know, and I'm stupid, and I should listen to Alex Jones, right? Okay, fine. So I read the bill and said, has anybody read this bill that's talking shit about it? Well, no. But then when I would explain it, they would say, but they could use it to later on do something else. Well, if they're going to later on do something else, they're going to do it with or without this. And they would get really mad and yell and scream. So I wrote an article, and I have a link in the notes for this where you can read the original article I wrote explaining everything about it. But the interesting thing is the pushback in the comments. Well, as soon as I finished the article, and in the article I said we need an amendment that exempts small farms from this because there's no reason for it. And it should not be able to be used to regulate in-state commerce. So it should not apply to a thing grown in Montana, sold in Montana. It should not apply to a thing grown in Texas, sold in Texas. Those that don't want to take my anarchist card right now was not an anarchist at the time. I was a small government libertarian. And I would still make that case today if you want to play in their system. Well, this is how their system works. The federal government is not supposed to regulate commerce inside a state. So it shouldn't have applied to that, and there should be this exemption. Well, like an hour and a half after I wrote that article and published it, Senator John Tester from Montana, a Democrat, introduced what was known as the Tester Amendment, and it specifically exempted any farm under $500,000 in sales per year. And I said, thank you, Senator Tester, even though you're a piece of crap, on other things. I'm sure we disagree on a lot of stuff, but this is where it really pushed me. The case I made was, it's 2010. The Democrats control the Senate decisively, and they control that Congress or the House decisively, and they control the White House. This is going to pass. You can scream, you can yell, you can object, you can gnash your teeth, you can beat your own face against the wall, you can put a cheese grater up your ass, you can do anything you want, and you know what? It's still going to pass. But I had people in my audience telling me I was surrendering for telling you the truth. I had people upset with me for telling them the truth. We need to resist. But nobody who I said, what does that mean, had an answer that made any sense. A few people, when we went back and forth with it, in the end said, well, yeah, you're right, but I don't like it. I can't just say it, even though I know I actually agree with this. Well, what's going on in Australia right now, there's a bill in Australia that's probably going to pass. It will make the food supply problems worse. It does cause a lot more problems. I do think there is a new world order, if you want to call it that wants to squeeze the food supply. But how is it being marketed? Not by Australians, by the way, by Americans that want to be sensationalists to make a point. They're making it illegal to grow your own food in Australia. So, being me, I downloaded and read the bill. It doesn't say jack shit about growing your own food. It actually doesn't really regulate growing food at all directly. It is 100% focused on noxious weeds and pest animals, specifically invasive species, and preventing them from being spread through being a dumbass and like digging up soil and moving it over here when you know it has a pathogen in it, and finding people onerous, awful fines for doing so. Do I oppose it? Since I oppose all government, yes. Does it matter that I oppose it? No. Even if I was a voter and politically active and shit, I'm not an Australian. Australians don't seem very upset about this, so why should I be? But it's bullshit. But you tell people that, you're a dumbass, you're stupid, you don't know. Well, did you read the bill? No, I did, and here's what it says. You're a globalist, you're a statist cuck, you're a Fed, you're a plant, whatever. This made me an anarchist. The right, to be clear, made me a full-on anarchist because of your stupidity. Because of your stupidity. Your unwillingness to accept reality for what it is and understand the rules of the system that you espouse. The right made me an anarchist, not the left. Now, I agree with the right in many ideologies more so than the left. I also agree with the left in many... hold on. I agree with the left from 20 years ago a great deal more than on a lot of things that I do with the right, like being anti-war, right? Like, yeah, remember the anti-war left? Like, I totally identify with... When I was a kid, when I say kid, I mean like a 20-year-old soldier in the military who would just vote Republican straight ticket. I still agreed with the left on being anti-war. I just didn't think they would do it. And there was so many other things I agreed with the right with back then that it outweighed it. I wasn't a single issue voter. But it was this unwillingness to accept reality, this idea that if I just care enough, that it impacts the reality. I quit voting because I realized it didn't matter. It wouldn't change things. And nobody yet with math had explained to me where it would. For that, I was called a surrender monkey and a bunch of other words that are really, really bad. But that's why I became an anarchist, because it's impossible to have these discussions with logic and reason. And when I thought about why, I realized that the mental patients are running the asylum. And that the only thing that I could do to really make a difference was get out of the asylum. So that's how the right, that's how alternative media, that's how our side turned me into a full 100% anarchist. I will come back to questions at the end, but somebody asked, what's the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist? The best phrase I've ever heard, even though it doesn't directly explain the answer, but to make it understandable. all anarchists are libertarians, but not all libertarians are anarchists. So if you take libertarian principle in its purest form, which is basically the non-aggression principle, don't hurt people and don't take their stuff against their will, then that's a pure libertarian. And then you have, by proxy, an anarchist. Now, anarchists then want to name themselves, I'm an anarcho-syndicate. Well, I don't think you know what anarchism is, but whatever. You know, or I'm an ANCAP, or I'm an ANCON, or whatever, right? ANCOM, or primitivist, anarchist, or whatever. In the end, either you agree we should not hurt people or take their rightful property, or you don't. And if you do, and you do all the time, not to pay for the things you really want, then you're an anarchist and a libertarian. If you're like, well, that's what I believe, but who gonna build more roads? Or we at least need a police department to protect property. We need the smallest state possible. Then it's very possible that you're a libertarian, but not an anarchist. And when people say, well, they're not a real libertarian because they're not like me. That's like saying you're not a real Bitcoiner because you're not like me. It's nonsensical. We live in this world where we think in a world of shades of gray in binary code, on and off, black and white. Libertarianism is really more like a rheostat, like a way that you turn up a light where it's really, really dim and you keep turning it up brighter, 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 brighter. The maximum setting on that light is anarchist. Just a little tiny turn back. Well, we at least need roads, bridges, schools, and a police department to protect private property, and a national defense system to keep bad guys from invading our country. That would be a minarchist libertarian. And I spent most of my life as a minarchist libertarian, which is why I can tell you now that it's a horrible philosophy. It's an awful philosophy. That philosophy is, you know, I know he has cancer. I know we just put him through surgery. We just cut him open. He's gone through hell. But this little piece of cancer here, we should leave that behind. But I'm also a pragmatist, and I'll tell you, I prefer that person a million times over right or left full-on statism. A million times. It's a million times better. It's still awful, but I won't insult you for it. Okay? I won't insult you for it. I won't call you a statist cuck. I won't do anything like that. But I will say you're a statist. Because a statist is someone who believes inherently in the validity and the need for a state. Right? So I don't believe in the need for a state, but I also do not believe that the state's authority is legitimate. I will point out like a referee that doesn't care about the game but read the book. Who's right on a call? And then people will take that to mean that's my endorsement of said saying. So on a call, I'm going to be like, the book says, the Constitution says, right? Legal precedent says, the law says, you say you're playing this game under those rules. So in that instance, they got the call right or they got the call wrong. Yeah. And I will look at it from a standpoint of, here, Supreme Court ruling. Roe versus Wade, abortions are blah, 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 blah. Baby killers on this side and, you know, like coat hanger screamers on that side and the whole thing. It's not what the decision's about. Maybe it should be, but it's not. The decision is, constitutionally, does the federal government have the power to tell the states they can't regulate this thing? And assuming the leak doesn't do what it was supposed to do and doesn't intimidate the justices, they got the call right. Then you can debate the morality of the issue separately. The question was, inside the book of rules, who has this power or who doesn't? Since it's not restricted from the states, they have the power. That's the way our system works. Does that mean, rah, rah, USA, USA, bring the Eagles out to fly around? No. It's just, that's how they, like, do I agree with all the rules the NFL has for how football should be played? No. But if you're going to put the suit on, shoulder pads, helmet, jockstrap, etc., and go play football, then you've agreed to those rules when you play that game. Really, really, really simple to understand. All right, moving along, because I got a lot to cover here today. Next, I saw an interesting question on Twitter. Somebody said, and people want to dig into the technicality of this, and you really shouldn't. We should just answer the question as asked. It's hard for people to do. Well, technically, well, actually, like the question was, if somebody says to you, because Bitcoin's so private, I know it's not, but it can be. All right. So just let it go. And since the government can't really tax it, then how will we build the roads? Well, my first answer to that is fuck them. That's my anarcho answer. Like, if we can actually do that, then we should, and great. But my other two answers to it were, well, then, you know, maybe if they have a hard time making people pay taxes, they'll have to get people to pay taxes. So they'll have to do a better job and waste less money and piss away less money. So even though that doesn't move where I want to go, it goes in the right direction. So great. And then my third answer is, no matter what is being spent, because business owners want to protect what they have. And I can't tell you how many people that own brick and mortar businesses and click and mortar businesses that have told me, well, I follow the law because I have too much to lose. We already have a system in place that does sales tax. So you could have a Bitcoin standard. You could have a crypto standard. People could use mixed Bitcoin. They could use R. They could use Monero. They could use privacy coins out the ass. You'll still have merchants that are going to charge sales tax, and there's already a system in place to do it. Then you'd have a sales tax. Am I okay with that? No, it's theft. I'm not okay with theft. But what it would do is it would remove a graduated income tax, okay, which is one of the planks of the Communist Manifesto. So that would be a net win. The other thing it would do is it would remove wealth privilege anti-tax. There's so many people, or I should say so many companies, that make billions of dollars and effectively pay no tax. Now, I'm for this if you can do it. If it's a system everybody can work, then fine. But it's also used against us. Well, if transactions were taxed as a percentage of the transaction during the trade, it would be an apportioned tax, which I'm back to the rule book, not what I want, what the rule book says. That would be an apportioned tax, meaning it's the same for everybody involved. That would be legal under our system of governance that we're supposed to have that we don't. Where an unapportioned tax, meaning that it's not equally distributed, is not within the constitutional authority of our government, even though we've had a tax that says, you know, that's what it is. And then, you know, I'll add to it, you know, punishable by fine means legal for a fee, and you do what you want to with that. But I just thought it was an interesting question, like, and this is the bigger thing that I see for crypto, Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is the winner. You can keep chanting like Roger Ver or Peter Schiff for gold or whatever you want to do. Bitcoin won. It's over, but it's crashing. Okay. You know, I'm not some noob. I'm not some pleb. I've been around since 2013, 2014. I've seen this before. I'm not worried about it. I know what comes next. And everybody else is down too, right? It's over. If you were going to buy a search engine stock in 1999 or 2003 or whenever it came out, you wanted it to be Google. Everybody else lost. And it was very quick that we knew they won. Didn't say they're the best. All right. We just knew who won, who controlled the market, who was going to control the market. There was only one place you really wanted your money. That's Bitcoin. Now, so Bitcoin, the biggest property of Bitcoin is, yeah, I have it. Take it. You can't? Tough shit. We'll freeze this, and you can do whatever you want, but you can't have this. We'll regulate the on-ramps. People take it directly. Go away. I don't care. It's the first time in the history of the world that you've had truly 100% equally defensive property. If you have an IQ over 85 and you will spend a day learning how, you can be a little old lady in a wheelchair or a big, strong CrossFit type soldier, 19 with 100 guns, and you can equally defend your Bitcoin. Any other crypto, by the way, many other cryptos. By the way, a shitload of cryptos you guys think are decentralized or not. If a small number of people can change a thing, it's not decentralized. If a small number of people can stop transactions off of an address, it's not decentralized. It's also probably a security under law, but we're not going to go into that today. But I actually think, see, this is the real power of Bitcoin and crypto. I saw somebody else on Twitter this weekend. We need a law that says it's legal to self-custody Bitcoin. Go away. Don't bother me. I don't care. First of all, it's already legal. Second of all, I don't give two shits if it is or not. Prevent me. Because here's a quote for you guys that like to quote me. Sovereignty is not given, it is taken. I can already self-custody my crypto. Go away. I don't care about you. By the way, I can technically self-custody my Ethereum, but I really can't. Trust me, if the Ethereum Foundation knows the address that I have, which is really an account, they can lock up my Ethereum. Ethereum's not decentralized. And anything built on Ethereum is not decentralized. Everything can be, most other cryptos can be shut down. To be fair to Sal, who's still here heckling and whatever, I don't think you could do it to Bitcoin Cash. As a fork of Bitcoin, the way that it's run, Minecoin, etc., I don't think you could do it. The other shit forks, Satoshi Vision, etc., couldn't do that either. I don't think you could do it to Monero, but I'm not sure. A lot of people that speak on behalf of Monero legitimately, right, etc., like, and Sal says Strike can do the same thing. I don't care. Strike is a tool for buying crypto. As soon as I buy it, I transfer it. I'll do that for you one day, Sal, right? No one said anything about holding your Bitcoin on exchange. Strike is an exchange, right? So that's the whole point, though, that by having a property government cannot seize, you force them to negotiate. And sovereignty is not given. It is taken. Do what you want with that. Next, there is a new documentary out, and you should totally watch it, even though it's totally partisan, because it's mostly accurate. It's called 2,000 Mules. And it's a good example of another reason that I'm an anarchist, right? It really is. So it's by Dinesh D'Souza, who's clearly all the way in the tank for the right politically and believes that if we just put Trump back in power, everything. I get that. That's ad hominem. It doesn't pertain to what I'm about to tell you. If you've ever doubted whether there was fraud in the 2020 election, if you watch this movie and you have an IQ over 85 and you're not completely wrapped up in the other side of the dichotomy, you will have zero doubt. If it was a court of law and you were a sworn juror willing to uphold a ruling and it was presented to you as evidence that there were fraud and your thing was fraud, guilty, no fraud, not guilty, you would come down guilty. Whether or not it would have affected the race and actually given the race to Trump, I don't know. They make a pretty compelling case that it would have. If you believe that cell phones can be tracked accurately, then they make a great case that it would have. And it's only a small fraction of what probably happened. But I'll give you the essence of it, and there'll be a link in the show notes where you can go watch it. Dinesh was selling it for $29. A guy produces a movie. I'll pay for it. But it's like, as I figured, by the end of the first weekend, it's everywhere for free. So I threw up a copy on my Odyssey channel. You can go watch it there if you want to. If you want to pay him for it like I did, go ahead and pay him for it. But you will see people pull up to a drop box with a stack of ballots and take pictures of them with their phone as they're putting them in the box. You will see tracing data that shows the person went to a nonprofit Democrat, get out the vote bullshit thing, and then went to a drop box and another drop box and another drop box, and then went back to another kind of, nonprofit fusion center, picked up more shit, and then went to multiple drop boxes. You will see security camera footage because it was all released under like the state level of FOIA. And there's millions of minutes of video of this shit going on with, here's the person that we think, they don't know the person's name, but they bought all the tracking data from advertising companies. Think about that with your phones, guys. And this data is publicly available. You can buy it. And then you can't see that this is Tom's phone, but you can see this phone did all this shit. With this phone, you can identify patterns. And they show this happening. And then they pull up the video footage from the time it says the guy was there. And there's a guy stuffing ballots into a box. Some in the middle of daylight, some at 3:45 in the morning. Place to place to place. This is another interesting thing. So this all happens in the 2020 election with Trump and all that shit. But none of the video footage shows any of the people wearing surgical gloves. None of it. Then we had that Georgia runoff election. And the videos in Georgia during the runoff election, all the people are wearing surgical gloves. Why? Because some clown that they actually prosecuted in Arizona, one of the convicting pieces of evidence they had was his fingerprints on all the ballots he said he didn't touch. So the word got out and they put their little gloves on. Maybe they were afraid of McCovids. You know, we had a surge in January going on, 2021. Well, here's an interesting thing. So you see the video. Here comes the tool. Puts all the ballots in, taking pictures of them because that's apparently how they get paid. Then they get all their ballots in, they put the phone away, take their gloves off, and throw them in the garbage and go on about their business to their next, place to drop ballots. Because those gloves make you sweat and they're kind of uncomfortable even in January, I guess. So I don't think they were too worried about their COVIDs. So my belief here is that the right is getting the wrong message from this. We're going to reinstall my orange man. We're going to decertify the election. That ship has sailed. That's not going to happen. We're about to have another election. Again, anarchist hat off, referee stripes on. These are federal felonies. These are serious federal felonies. The integrity of our elections has always been shit, but now it's below shit. It's the maggot shit under the shit. That's where the integrity of elections in the United States is. These people need to go to prison. You're not going to decertify the election. It's not going to happen. You're not going to overturn a race. It has happened, by the way. That's in the movie, too. There have been races overturned for this, where people are actually caught. But right now, if I'm the Democrats, I'm incredibly emboldened. And this movie actually makes me more so. Because the average person is not going to pay any attention. The Republicans are chicken shit and won't do anything with it. And they got away with it. So they're going to do it again. Now I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. There's going to be people on the right that won't stand for it. They're going to set up guards and shit like that around these drop boxes. And they're going to be made the villains. Because the media will play right into this. Reason number 937.5 that I'm an anarchist. Because your system's broken, it doesn't work, and you're not going to fix it. We need a new system. And we need a system that's based on individual sovereignty and saying, no, I'm not going to comply with what you want me to do. That gets their attention. The day that there's an election and 5% of the people show up to vote, it's over. That's the vote that will really matter in the end. Until then, vote or don't vote. I don't care. It won't change the price of tea in China or 1% of your freedom. You watch. Prediction. Karnak. Remember Johnny Carson with Karnak in the envelope, right? Karnak the Magnificent without the turban. Reincarnated here is Jack Spirko. In 2022, in the midterm elections, even with cheating, and there will be lots of cheating, the Democrats are going to get it shoved up their ass hard. They're going to lose hard. They are going to get it hard. It is their turn in the barrel, and there's razor penises going in the barrel. That's how bad it's going to be. Your life won't change. Your life won't get better. You may rah and cheer a few things, but it won't. And when it doesn't happen, and I point out that it didn't happen, you'll say, but that's because we have Brandon in the White House. And when we get the White House back in 2024, it's all going to be super duper. And if you don't starve to death by then, we'll eventually get to 2024. And you're probably right. And we probably will have a Republican president and at least a modicum of control of both houses by 2024. Because shit ain't going to get better and people throw the guy in charge or the party in charge out when things are bad, no matter which side it is. And then your life won't change again. And then we'll hear how 2026 is, dun, 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 the most important election of our lifetime. And I'll still say I don't give a shit. And I'll still be out building my gardens, running my crypto nodes, doing my shit, going along and not asking for permission, just seizing it. Okay? I'm not even asking. People say it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. I'm not asking for forgiveness either. Forgiveness is something you seek when you've done something wrong. Living my life on my terms and harming no one else is nothing I will ever ask for forgiveness for. Next up, somebody said, just a little post, probably a comment-based post. It said, right-wing communes when? ? And I responded, we already have them. They're made up mostly of families. We call them homesteads, and I highly recommend getting one. And I think that's a lesson for the right, the libertarian, the anarchist. We have this idea, this intentional community idea. And if you can pull it off, God bless you. Go ahead. But most of what we espouse is around the rights of personal property. Okay, personal property. I'm beginning to like that term a lot better than private property. And Mary, thank you for the $49.99 super chat. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing gardening info and following me on Twitter. Yeah, I'm glad I am. We're going to talk about Twitter in a minute here, since so much of this show today came from Twitter. Again, Mary, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. But this idea that we're going to put everybody together collectively in a group of people who so value their personal property doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think what Nicole Sauce is doing in Tennessee makes a lot of sense to me. Community has its boundaries. So Nicole has her 3 acres and her neighbor has their 5 acres. And the guy down the street has 1.5 acres. And, there's 50 acres across the street somebody owns. And everybody kind of works together. Just kind of like, natural community. And the interesting thing is that the people that most want communism have nothing to share. Have you ever noticed that? The people that most want communism have nothing to share, either because they have nothing or they have everything and they know they're not going to be one of the people that share. Because if you don't think there's elites in communism, you're no student of history. I challenge you to look up something like Arm & Hammer, okay, in the Soviet Union, during the Soviet Union, when it was all communist, and see how that worked out. And where do you think all those oligarchs came from after the fall of the Soviet Union? Do you think they learned how to be elite, in the first 6 months after the fall? Or do you think they just kind of changed their entity form a little bit and realized with chaos comes the ability to get away with a lot more shit? So if we're going to actually build community on our side, then what we're going to have to do is respect the property of individuals and the individuality of individuals. And that does not make a commune or a collective. It does make a community. Just a thought on that. Next, real quick, I have a link for this, and you can read it yourself. But there's a dude on Twitter, can't remember his name, and he just wrote a 9-part, because Twitter limits how much you can write, like 9 follow-ups to his original post on why to get your crypto, specifically your Bitcoin, because this guy seems like a Bitcoin maxi, off the exchanges. And his rules are, hey, look, if you don't think you can print more Bitcoin or any crypto, you don't understand how exchanges work. And so when you go to Coinbase, I want you to think about this. You go to Coinbase and you buy $200 worth of Bitcoin on Sunday. And then it's almost immediately available for you to transfer. So you buy it, there it is. I don't want it on Coinbase, send them wallet. It can go there. Now, Bitcoin's way faster than people think it is, okay? Way faster than people think it is. And it's way cheaper than people think it is, especially with SegWit. But there is a clear time. And you can take your Bitcoin off of Coinbase before that clearance time. Why? Well, they hold a lot of Bitcoin. But they don't hold enough for everybody at one time, all the time. Even if they're doing like mass transactions where they're bringing in and out, there's a certain amount of Bitcoin or Algorand or any crypto on any exchange that's liquidity in the form of paper, even though it's not in paper, it's in digital, meaning that you and somebody else have claim to it at the same time. And what they're betting on is there won't be a bank run. Everybody won't take their shit off at the same time. This is why when I buy Bitcoin or anything else, but mostly Bitcoin, when I buy it, the second is available for withdrawal, which often is instantly, I withdraw it. I'm going to buy, just for Sal here, I guess, I'm going to buy $50 worth of Bitcoin right now. And I'm going to try to do it and keep talking so that I don't make this go longer than much. I'm going to use Strike. Now, I had problems with Strike Sunday, so hopefully I won't hear. But I'm going to deposit $50. Deposit. Confirm. As long as this goes through, I don't have this problem, I'll go ahead and continue this for you. It wants my credit card 3-number thing. Submit. And as long as this deposit goes through, we'll keep on with this. If it doesn't, I'll do it later. There it went. I don't know what was. Maybe too many people were buying the dip. So now I have $50 in here, and I'm going to buy Bitcoin with it. I'm going to go buy all, confirm, spinny thing, Check mark. Jack Spirico just bought $50 worth of Bitcoin. Check. Okay, I'm going to go to my Exodus wallet, enter my pass code. Okay, I'm going to go back because I'm still here where I sent Jake money. I'm going to go into Bitcoin, get a receive address. I copied it. I go back into Strike. I'm going to go send, paste, max, confirm, done. It's on the way to my wallet that fast. I just deposited $50 worth of Bitcoin. Okay. Just deposited, or $50 worth of dollars, converted it to Bitcoin and withdrew it from Strike. It will be in my wallet. I'll leave it open. Let me get that open. And if I hear it ping, I'll tell you when it posts. It'll definitely post before we're done. So I'm going to go back there and we'll leave it there and we'll see when it posts. It'll post within 5 minutes and then it'll take about 8 minutes to clear. All right. Well, that has to happen on the other side. So where does Strike get the $50 worth of Bitcoin? Well, they do have a reserve, but I guarantee you if every single user of Strike or Coinbase or any exchange all tried to withdraw their Bitcoin at the same time, there'd be a shortfall. There'd be a shortfall. And what he's saying, the dude on Twitter, and it's really a great post, and he's right, this suppresses the price of Bitcoin. If the average person, as soon as they bought their Bitcoin, removed it from the exchange, and didn't contribute to liquidity by holding it where you don't own it, it's somebody else's, the price of Bitcoin would be higher. It would still have retracted, but it wouldn't have retracted as much, and it would have went higher at its all-time high. Because effectively, you are screwing up the control and the check on inflation by allowing the banks, exchanges, to print Bitcoin in the form of paper, i.e. digital paper, IOUs. So don't do that. And don't tell me it's hard. I just showed you how easy it is. I did it with a mobile app. And I got to buy it, 30,836. That's cool. So it dipped. So I bought some more. Not here yet. I'll tell you when it's here. But please, please stop doing this. Please stop holding on Coinbase or anywhere, right? What site do you purchase the original Bitcoin with? There's no original Bitcoin. There's Bitcoin or there's not Bitcoin. You can buy it on any exchange that will let you buy it. I primarily use, if I'm going to do what I just did, fiat into Bitcoin, Coinbase and Strike, because it works, it's fast, it's simple, and it's cheap. That's why I do it. Yesterday, I tried to use Strike to buy $200 worth of Bitcoin because I bought me some dip. And for some reason, that deposit wouldn't go. I don't know what was going on, but something was screwed up. So I went to Coinbase. I bought $200 worth of Bitcoin. And there was like $15 in there from referrals. So I had $215. I withdrew it immediately to my wallet. When it hit my wallet, the entire transaction fee from the Bitcoin network was something like 7 cents. Don't tell me it's expensive, and it took 10 minutes. Like, this is it. Like, don't make this hard. In fact, I want to know, I have a banner set up for this. If you don't own Bitcoin yet, for those of you in the chat with me, why not? Do you answer, I don't believe it's going to make it. It's not worth it, you know. I'm not sure how to buy and hold it, or I feel like I'm too broke to buy it. Because I've had people tell me, oh, I can't afford $30,000. Well, somebody said you had to buy a whole Bitcoin. I just bought $50. I could have bought 5 if I wanted to. Right? You could buy any amount you want. And you know, to Sal's little heckling again, you know, Strike could shut you down your account. Of course they can. That's why, how much would they get if they shut me down right now? 0. The transaction's already initiated. The maximum risk that I take is any individual buy. I'm a dollar cost average buyer. Even if I'm going to buy $1,000 this week, I'm going to buy it in $100 or $50 transactions. And I'm immediately going to transfer. There's nothing that they can do. I'm sorry. It's over, guys. It's already mine. It's already gone. It's out there in the chain. It's inevitable. It's just posted, by the way. So it's already posted. I don't know how long that was, but it's posted. Now I don't have to wait for the transactions to clear, but I'm going to tell you something else. This whole, you know, you need 3 confirmations, 5, whatever number of confirmations people think you need. Well, before you can spend it, yes. But if somebody buys something from you in Bitcoin, and as soon as you see it go ding, I have never had a transaction not complete once it shows up. Because it's 100% reliable. It's always going to work. Anyway, we have somebody saying, I don't trust digital currency. I feel better with tangible assets. So here's my point then, Wink. I can take away your tangible assets. I can tax your tangible assets. I can throw you off your tangible asset and real property, right? Next guy says, I don't own it, and you don't want to hear this, but until you can pay taxes with it, I'm not sold. Okay, so you can pay taxes with Bitcoin. You can already pay your taxes in Bitcoin. They will totally take your Bitcoin. That's years ago. See, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people who, you know, they have these belief systems that are predicated on absolute falsehood. So that's a perfect one there. I don't want to hear it. I actually love hearing that. Thank you for telling me that, LW. Thank you. I had no idea that there was anybody out there that thought, well, I don't want to hold it because I can't pay taxes in it. You can pay taxes in it. You can donate to political, if you're stupid enough, you can donate to political candidates with it. They made that legal back in like 2015. It's interesting. It's interesting. I'm surprised I don't have more people saying I don't know how. Of course, this is an educated audience. Moving on. Another question that was asked this week over social media. Do we need an Elon phone? The hell's an Elon phone? So basically, there's people now, they're calling on Elon Musk like our savior, like he's actually Iron Man or some shit. He's Tony Stark. You know what? You should buy Facebook and you should buy Google, and that's not going to happen. But we should have an Elon phone. We would have an open source operating system, and then you could just go buy an Elon phone and throw your SIM card in there, and then you could actually have uncensored apps and not be tracked and all that. Now, somebody's gonna say you could de-Google your phone and stuff like that, and you can, and many of you should, and I get that. But you know, if you think it's scary to buy Bitcoin, if you think it's hard to buy Bitcoin, de-Googling a phone is a hell of a lot harder, man. It really is. But if there was a reasonably priced phone that just worked off the shelf, and I would call it a mobile device, not a phone. I don't even care if it makes phone calls, honestly. But basically a replacement for this that would just work off the shelf and do everything that you needed it to do. If all your apps that you use now that you love still worked in it, would you use it? Would you buy it? If it was a couple $100 and you knew that it would just work, would you buy it? And Wink is saying you can get a de-Google phone from Brax, and I agree. And here's my issue with this, right? These devices run Android, and they have inherent limitations, but they're still like, they're all running the same OS, and the same OS is still, I don't know that I trust it. What I actually said to the people that said this is, I think it's a fine idea, but I don't want an Elon phone. I don't trust Elon more than I trust anybody else. I don't trust any one entity or one person, period. What I would like to see is a true open source phone environment. I'd like to see multiple operating systems, all interoperable with multiple open source app stores. And I would like those open source app stores to basically make it so if I'm a developer, and I've already done the big two, I've made my Android app and I've made my Apple app, that I can almost drop code in as like a wizard or something and convert it. And then I would like some sort of auditing service that instead of having terms and conditions that are 87 things long and you finally just say upset because you can't read all of that legalese, that just pulls out and says, here's the big things the people that run this app are doing to screw you over. And then I think what we'd have is more functional, useful apps that cost money. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. That's what I'd like to see. I would like to see the average app not be free. I mean, I think one of the things that people do not understand, really do not understand, is that anything that's free means you're the product. All those apps that you can get for free, you're the product. And most of the apps that you can spend money to buy, you're still the product. So I would like actually to see an operating system that prevents tracking even by the app, or that tracking is default opt-in only. I bought this app. It wants to track me. It'll do everything that I want it to do without tracking me. Or even if it's a GPS type app that helps me find a place, well, it has to know where I am to tell me where I'm going, right? But it'll be blocked. That information will never go back to the originator. Will you share your information? Yes, I'm fine with that. If you want to give away your information, I think you should be able to. Maybe they'll pay you to give away your information. Maybe you want to do it for a reason. There are places where they're guaranteeing that you will not be known, and they're paying you with crypto in return for your information because they're going to sell your information. Because a lot of brands and things like that, they don't care where Jack Spirko goes. They care where everybody goes as a percentile, because it's very valuable demographic information to market their shit. And since they're selling it for money, maybe they're willing to pay you. I'm not going to do it, but I can see why. If you look at it, the average person's data is worth about $8 a day. If you want to sell your data, fine. But this has to be done like I just had my whole talk about crypto and government. You don't ask for sovereignty, you take it. If I have the ability to not give you my data, period, and you want my data, then we have to negotiate. And we have to negotiate the terms and the conditions that I'm willing to give it to you. So I want to see like an unbelievable number of devices. Gorba was supposed to make a Gab phone for the social network Gab. It seems like a publicity stunt because I never heard about it again. It was like a year ago I heard the Gab phone is coming. Not a word about it. Everybody's guilty of shit like that, I guess. In the business world, one way or another, with a little bit of clickbait or whatever. But I'd like to see thousands of them. Now, here's the problem. We haven't learned our lesson. We still get almost everything we need to build a cell phone from China. We're not going to build the shit here. And until we do, I don't trust any of it. You might as well have an Apple phone, as far as I'm concerned, if your device was built in China. There's back doors in every piece of technology. It's more about how you use it than what you have, I think. That's my personal opinion. Next. So one of the things that I've heard with great fervor, Argentina has banned crypto. No, Argentina didn't ban crypto, and I think this is actually very encouraging. I don't think it's good, but I think it's encouraging. So the Argentinian central bank said if you're a bank in Argentina, you can't handle crypto. So they said the banks can't be in the business of dealing with crypto. Does that mean an Argentinian can't, wire Argentine pesos to a exchange? No, that might have other hurdles, but that's not what this means. That means the bank can't do business with crypto. You know what that means? They're scared of it. They're scared of it. We just had 2 more nations go Bitcoin native. Panama did it in a better way, in my opinion. They made it a de facto legal tender. So in Panama now, you can hold, buy, spend, receive Bitcoin and not pay any capital gains taxes on it. It's seen as equal to the Balboa, and there is no Balboa. There's no such thing as the Panamanian Balboa. I lived there. I can tell you right now, I never saw a paper Balboa. Panama uses the dollar. They're a dollarized nation. They do have Balboa coinage. It's made by United States mints. It does have a picture of Balboa on it, but it's a United States quarter or what have you. In fact, I've never seen a Balboa dime. They may exist, but in 2.5 years of living in Panama, I never saw one, or a Balboa nickel, or a Balboa 50-cent piece. I don't know if I ever saw a 50-cent piece in Panama, or a Balboa like coin dollar. I saw a lot of Balboa quarters. I think it's so they feel good about it, but everybody uses the dollar. So effectively, Bitcoin and dollars are treated the same in the Panamanian economy. And of course, the Central African Republic made Bitcoin legal tender. That's now 2 nations making it legal tender and 1 making it a de facto financial standard. This is getting interesting, and the IMF is deeply concerned again. The central banks are deeply concerned again. They're deeply concerned for the poor people of Panama and the poor people of the Central African Republic. Now, we know that they've worked really hard to help those people all the way up till yesterday, and now they're going to have to be meanies, right? Come on. This is what I said before. Do you really think that any central banker is getting up in the middle of the night and thinking, God, in my heart, I'm so worried about Central African Republic? No, what they're upset about is the colonial franc system has fallen on its ass in Africa. And Central African Republic is the first domino to fall there. And it's going to rip through Central and South America, and it's going to rip through the African continent. That's where it's going to begin, because they're the people that most need it. And right now, those of you that are like, but look how far it went down. You're the same sons of bitches. I'm sorry. You are. Man, when it goes down, I'm going to buy some. Man, I wish I would have bought it when it was $25,000, man. You weren't going to buy it then. You're probably not going to buy it now. It's okay. Here's my theory about where people get into Bitcoin at. Whatever price you get in at is the price you deserved. If you wait till FOMO pushes you in at an all-time high and you have to ride through your first roller coaster from the top instead of the bottom, it's what you deserved. If you got in way earlier than me, and unlike me, you didn't spend a lot of it, and you're an OG now and you're rolling big-time bankroll of Bitcoin, that's what you deserved. If you're me and you got in real early, but you wanted people to adopt it, so you bought stuff with it, and if you would have just kept it, you'd have a lot more. I got what I deserved. If you bought it today, you got what you deserved. That's how it works, because it's a meritocracy. Somebody asked me this week too, is Bitcoin subject to the iron law of bureaucracy? It seems like all these maxis are more concerned about defending Bitcoin than the mission of Bitcoin. Well, the mission of Bitcoin is to be Bitcoin. It's to be whatever anybody wants it to be. That's why I tell people, that like, but what Satoshi wanted is, well, first of all, you're going to quote one line of a white paper, which I know you haven't read the whole thing, because you wouldn't be making the point you are if you did. And you didn't read all the shit that Satoshi left behind. I'll put a link in the notes today. There's a book you can buy. You can do it online for free, but the book is more convenient. Everything Satoshi ever wrote before he disappeared. And my thing is, if Satoshi wanted more block size or anything like that, Satoshi should have coded it before he left. Like, that doesn't work that way. But the mission of Bitcoin is to be Bitcoin. And we're going to build so many technologies on top of it. And I've realized something about why we have all these shitcoins. Why we have them all. It's exactly counter to the point of Bitcoin. What is the purpose of Bitcoin? The true purpose. To create a global monetary good that cannot be arbitrarily inflated. To end money printing. To put a stop to it. To have a system where everybody knows the rules and everybody knows tomorrow, this is how much the issuance of Bitcoin will be. And in 100 years, this is the issuance of new Bitcoin. And then you can look at adoption rate and you can transpose that into a market value. That's it. That's all it has. It has to be frictionless and weightless and instantaneously transferable around the world. And if you could transfer $1 billion in 10 minutes between two nations, that's instantaneous in our world. It has no gravity well, unlike gold. If I want to move $1 billion worth of gold between two countries, I need permits, I need airplanes, I need guys with guns, I need millions of dollars to effect a transfer. I can transfer $1 billion worth of Bitcoin for under $100 in 10 minutes. That's what it's supposed to be. Then you build whatever you want to work with it. And every single thing, even the ones I've advocated that altcoins can do, is being empowered with layered solutions for Bitcoin to do. And I've always said it's the best asset, but it doesn't do this or it doesn't do that. Two things that have caused this to happen. One's a lack of patience. I can build my own technology. I'll do it now. Okay, great. I understand that, but that's not the real motivation. The real motivation for all these alts is exactly the opposite of the mission of Bitcoin. The ability to print money is a power that is so attractive that few can resist it. Let's say I'm starting a new company and it's going to be a social media company. And I want my users to be able to transfer value and wealth between each other in a frictionless environment. I can integrate Lightning, which is easier to do now than ever, or I can come up with my social media name token. And when I issue that token, I can give myself a couple million of them. Now I can fund my entire operation. As soon as that thing hits exchanges, even if it sells as a shit coin at 50 cents, I gave myself $2 million. I just put $1 million into my treasury. And I did it by copying and pasting code and effective marketing. Maybe I gave myself $30 million, $35 million. You know, one of the old ones, Basic Attention Token, built as an ERC20 token. Bad. The Brave browser, it works. It does what it's supposed to do. But effectively, they gave themselves $35 million. That's why they did it. They didn't do it because nothing else would work. They did it to give themselves money so they could inflate themselves wealth. That's why so many of these things, I'm telling you, in the regulations that are coming, they're going to get hammered as securities, because back to putting on the black and white striped shirt, instead of the black and yellow or the gray and black one striped shirt, the anarcho-agorist flag shirt, if I'm going to be a referee in the system that we live in, whether we want to or not, there's securities under U.S. law, and they're coming for them. And things like Bitcoin and some of the alts are like Bitcoin. No pre-mine. There's no central authority. There's nobody enriching themselves on what other people are doing. Those are true cryptocurrencies. Even if they're not as good as Bitcoin, they're true cryptocurrencies. You look at anything built on ERC-20, I guarantee you it's going to fall as a security, and so is Ethereum. And these guys know this. And why do you think some of these cryptos, right, these crypto projects are buying massive amounts of Bitcoin? Why would they do that? Because you can't seize it. And because if they decide, I want to keep this as a going concern and I have to comply with all this bullshit, they're war chesting their money. If they war chest their money as Luna, and Luna gets declared a security, right? Because they're one of the biggest holders of Bitcoin in the world, publicly anyway, now that we know who owns it. Then you can't use the Luna to pay the bills that you have to comply with, but you can use the Bitcoin. They know it's coming too. They absolutely know it's coming, and you need to know that. Okay, let's switch to Ukraine real quick. I have a question. It's a serious question. I want you guys to start answering it before I give you the information I'm about to give you. How true do you think the mainstream narrative on Ukraine is? A, it's mostly true. B, it's somewhat true. C, it's somewhat false. D, it's mostly false. Drop your belief. Again, reading that for you. How true do you think the mainstream narrative on Ukraine is? The whole of it. It's A, it's mostly true. Because anybody thinks it's 100% true, you're an idiot. I don't even care. Okay. B, it's somewhat true. C, it's somewhat false. Or D, it's mostly false. I'm just curious. We have a D and we have a C so far. Another D, another D. So not at all. Mostly we're heading toward the not at all, mostly false to somewhat false. I would agree. And I would tell you that my gut is D. I'm open to C. I'm open to it's not as false as I think it is. But I will tell you there's some things that are going on that no one's telling you that are verifiable. One is, do you know how we created so much misery for ourselves and our gas prices are through the roof and all the inflation is Putin's fault, even though we had all the inflation coming for the war in Ukraine? So, but we suffered through all this, and that means the Ukrainians are winning because of us, because we're giving them $30 billion this time, and in the end, we're going to get like $1 trillion or some crazy shit is what will end up happening. Don't think it can't happen. Look at Afghanistan and Iraq. In fact, we could pour more money in there because if we don't put boots on the ground and it does keep going on, it's a never-ending hole. Because at least when we're spending money in these countries and we're occupying, we're spending it on our own initiatives. When we're giving it to a country, we're depending on them to do what they're supposed to do with it, right? But you would think that this economic war on Russia is effective, even if the war on the ground isn't. So you know what the best performing currency, not cryptocurrency, currency of all the nations in all the worlds, what the best performing currency in March was? The ruble. Link in the notes. You can go look at it after we end the live stream. The ruble was the most successful currency in the world in the month of March 2022, in the middle of an all-out war on it. We're losing the economic war. We're suffering, and they're not. Now, individual Russians have had things like their credit card shut off and all, but I've gotten straight up firsthand accounts that basically life inside Russia is pretty much going on as normal. And they're not having anywhere near the internal inflation the United States or the Western world is. Yay us. I also want to know if Kyiv is so dangerous. It's so dangerous. Oh, it's dangerous. Oh, my God. They're just bombing schools and children and orphanages every day. There's a little old lady taking flowers to orphans, and they shot her in the head with an RPG. Like, that's how bad Kyiv is. What the hell is Jill Biden, U2 and Bono and Justin Trudeau doing hanging out in Kyiv? Well, see, the war moved to the east. Well, that's pretty much where most of the war has been. They did advance on Kyiv. They did. They never made an effort to take it over. I don't care what the TV told you. I don't care what the TV told you. You can be mad at me if you want. People don't like the truth. I don't care what the TV told you. Russia never made a concerted effort to actually take Kyiv. And I'm going to tell you how you know that. And they weren't indiscriminately bombing every square inch of Kyiv, because there's two things you would know if that was true. One, Kyiv would be rubble. Not some rubble. It would look like Mariupol. That's what it would look like. And that could happen in 48 hours if they really wanted to. Now, this isn't Putin's a Superman and he has a super army or anything. The Russian army has some real weaknesses, and we're seeing it more than I think anybody ever realized right now. There's a lot of conscripts being shoved in there that really don't know why they're there. Nobody wants to just go kill somebody. Well, most people, 99% of people don't want to go just kill people for no reason, right? So if they're hungry, they're starving, they're not well supplied, it's not going to go well. And the Russian army's having that trouble. But from a standpoint of if you want Kyiv rubbled, that could be done without one boot on the ground with Russian artillery, right? And rockets and missiles and shit. And I'm not talking about nuclear either. That could have been done. So the fact that you have Biden's wife, Trudeau, and Bono hanging out in Kyiv tells you it ain't that dangerous, because they're not that brave. But what really tells you this? The early days of the war, when it was really on, man, when they were fighting the heroic thing. The Ukrainian beauty queen was out there with her airsoft gun and her designer gloves and her hair all perfect. Like when all that was going on, did you guys remember seeing like CNN reporters 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning standing in downtown Kyiv, reporting live from the front, not getting blown up? Didn't you notice how like all the lights were on? Now, I'm not saying there's no war. I'm not saying it's 100% wag the dog, guys. I'm just saying if you have a city being heavily bombarded, you turn off the freaking lights, okay? You turn off the lights. Ask the few remaining survivors of the German freaking bombings of London about this. You turn off the lights. You don't light the whole city up and say, here we are. And you don't have namby-pamby, wuss-ass reporters standing in the middle of the town that's being pounded. They're not that brave. There are some reporters, I want to be fair. There are some reporters, war correspondents, that literally risk their lives. And to me, they risk their lives more. Mary says it's 99% wag the dog. I don't know if it's 99. It's 90. Easy, right? There are some war correspondents that are, and like I said, I think to me, they risk their life more than the soldier because they're not trained like the soldier. And they're videoing or reporting while everybody's shooting at each other. And God, those guys, I have a tremendous amount of respect for. And they tell you the true horror of war. One of the best ones that's available right now, guy comes off kind of as a goofus, but he has to be brave as shit. I'll try to find his channel for you, add it to the notes if I don't forget. He's with the Russian army. He's a stooge of Putin. He's been there since 2014. He's on the ground. He's talking to people that live there. Some of them have positive things to say about the Russian side. Some have negative things to say about the Russian side. It's more honest journalism than CNN's given me. I'm not saying I even believe 100% of it. I'm not saying none of it is somewhat propaganda. I'm just saying it's more honest. It's closer to the truth. Where are these guys? Right? We have this idiot from CNN. This I can't think of his name. Black dude. Supposedly he's got a gun. He's out there fighting. He's listening to like air raid shit going off. He's talking about missiles coming in and saying what caliber they are. It's not how missiles work, dude. But supposedly they're in danger. They're under, and there's like people just walking around like old dudes playing chess behind him and shit. No one's worried but him. Come on, guys. I don't buy this. The other thing that's happening, the United States is now Baghdad Bob. We are. We are. We did it with COVID. Why not with the war in Ukraine? We are presenting this is that everything has gone wrong for Russia. And Russia's losing the war. And Putin's in danger of being overthrown any day or whatever. And, you know, I want to say something. There's this dichotomy. It's more like a trichotomy in this. Either the United States caused the war, right, by basically pushing Russia into a corner, Putin into a corner. Or Putin's crazy and he just wants to reestablish the Soviet Union. Or it's all because Nazis in Ukraine. We'll take the all off the Nazis in Ukraine. There's Nazis in Ukraine. Probably more than most people think and less than some people believe. But there's definitely Nazis in uniform in Ukraine serving in the Azov Battalion. That's a thing. It's not the reason for everything, though. But here's the thing. All of those things can be true. It can be true that Putin is the aggressor in the war in that he's the one that chose to invade. It can be true that the United States provoked Russia into that war. It can be true there's massive corruption in Russia and oligarchs, and this is about money for them. And it can be true that there's massive corruption in Ukraine. And it can be true the United States interfered with a legitimate election in 2014 and installed our puppet. All of it can be true. This idea that we have to pick a side in that is insane. And if you pick a side in it, the fluoride's working. Get it out of your water. Get it out. And it is McCain's war. That's an astute statement. If you want to know who's probably most responsible for this war, I'm actually going to bet when the post-mortem happens on this whole thing, assuming we don't nuclearize everybody and blow the planet up with it, there's going to be a movie. There's going to be a movie, and that's what it's going to be. What was the one? Charlie Johnson, or was it Charlie something's war? Remember that? Remember that movie? There's going to be a McCain's war because McCain is hugely responsible for this. Old school neocon. Big part of it. Absolutely. I'll let that go, though. But we're Baghdad Bob now. Putin is losing the war. He's running out of bullets. This will be over any day. There are no tanks in Baghdad while the M1 Abrams rolls right behind. If you don't know who Baghdad Bob is, look him up. I'm not doing that one for you. I'm putting a link in. We're Baghdad Bob. Charlie Wilson's War. That's it. Thank you, Mary. Yep. Martinson family says it too. Margaret Oliver says it. Thanks to all of you. Charlie Wilson's War. That's a great movie to watch. I highly recommend it. If you want to understand what's going on, understand what's happened in the past. God, I hate saying this. I hate saying this. There's no more warmongering nation on the planet than the United States of America. We're the most war hawkish nation that's ever existed, probably in the history of the world. Go do the research. Start in the year 19. Start with World War I. Start with our entry into World War I. And so you're looking at a little over 100 years. And you find for me, and you tell me, how many years did we not bomb another country in some way, shape, or form? Tell me what years, and it'll be surprisingly a short list. And if you start with World War II, when we really had the capability to really bomb people, if you start there, you're going to find out that there's really not a lot of years that we haven't bombed somebody. We bomb people this year. We're going to bomb people next year. I promise you, it's going to happen. It really is. I need to do something about this background noise. Hold me just a second. So, yeah, sorry about the delay there. Anyway, yeah, we're Baghdad Bob in this. Now I want to talk about something totally different here toward the end. Something that I missed, but to a great degree, and this is odd because it's social media itself that's caused the problem, I think, and it's my fault too. There's something I miss about the early days of Survival Podcast. Now, there's two things. One, I'll never get back. One is like you become a father and you have kids, and there's that period of time when they're not an infant anymore, and they're just beginning being a toddler, in that time through toddler period where you're really raising a child, and then they cross a point where they become somewhat more switched on and responsible, and now you're raising a young man or a young woman. But there is a period of time where you're raising a child. I got to raise you because you're basically an infant, and I got to raise you into a child, and then I can take the child and raise the child into an adult. That's parenting to me. And there is, when you create something like the Survival Podcast, right? Yeah, that transaction cleared long ago. I don't know how long it took, but yeah, that's already gone. You can never go back and do that again. So in creating something like a podcast and actually making it successful, there are those early days when you're working so hard and you would get excited because you look at your stats and you got 10 new followers this week. like, and you're ecstatic. And I get a post and it got 3 comments, right? I got 2 new followers, right? I mean, like, there is something in that, and it's special, and you'll never, ever do that again. You have to create a whole new company to do it again, or you have to have a whole new baby to do it again. And sometimes you get old, you have gray hair, and not having babies no more, and you have grandchildren and what have you. But, you know, that's just, it's over. And so I miss that, but that's not the biggest thing. The thing I miss more, because I don't think it had to happen, is the interaction with you guys. The interaction with you guys. When I started TSP was 08. And social media was a thing, but it wasn't big yet. I think people don't realize how recent a phenomenon things like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and all of this being really, really big is. And so, like most people with a podcast, especially at the time, I used WordPress as a blog platform, and I used RSS to syndicate it out into Apple Podcasts, right? Which was called iTunes at the time. That's how long ago it was. And there were some other podcast services, but like 99% of my listeners came from iTunes. And 95% of my interaction with the audience was on my blog. People came to the site, to the episode, and commented. And then we commented back. Sometimes we had debates. Sometimes we had agreements. Sometimes we learned things. Sometimes we had arguments. Sometimes people argued with each other. But that was the way things were. And a typical episode with 20% of the listeners that I have today would get 80 to 100 comments. And I get 4 or 5. And there's a reason. The discussion is now decentralized, which is good in a way, because I have less control. You know, and there's been different places where it's migrated, blown up, and ebbed out and went somewhere else. So at one time, we had the most trafficked Zello channel that existed. Zello was the thing, man. We actually had the developers on Zello reach out to our Zello crew and say, how do we make Zello better? Because you're the most active channel on Zello. We had a massively growing Facebook following, well over 100,000 people following my page on Facebook. So that migrated there, and it bifurcated. And Twitter never blew up for me. I got shadow banned as early as anybody. I've been shadow banned on Twitter for 8 years plus. But, that bifurcated. We have people now on Discord, Telegram, MeWe, Float, all over the place, Gab. And that means that I don't have quite the relationship with you guys that I used to. I want to. I'm still willing. I put the effort in. But what makes a discussion isn't you and me, right? Meaning it's not Jason and me, or DS and me, or Jim Jen and me, right? It's me and Jason and DS and Jim Jen and Smirk, right? All these people I'm seeing right now, K-Bonk and Erwin and Jason. And it's the conversation between us, but it's the conversation between each other. And as we've spread out, there's not only less of the direct between me and you, there's less of the intercommunication. And everybody's siloed into their places. Like the Telegram group is really active, but it's probably 15 people that do 80% of the talking. And then that's true on MeWe. It's less true on Float because it's not as, they don't have communities there yet. So it's kind of more individuals, right? But it's all spread out. And there's another thing that we had kind of just fall. And that was the forum. The Survival Podcast used to have a forum. I built it myself on Simple Machines because I built it myself and I'm not a coder. It probably made it more difficult for my web guys to maintain. And when we had Bill and Steve leave as maintaining all my web services, and Tom, who's right here with us right now, Tom, I'll put him up on the screen, came in and took over, we decided that the cost of maintaining the forum was no longer worth it because so few people were using it. And that's probably because I never used the forum much. I built it, I gave it to the community, and I walked away from it and said, you guys run it however you want to. And so the forum, even though it was our branded forum, became more like a satellite site. And then that led to the whole migration out into Facebook and the social media world. And I wonder if it's all my fault, or at least mostly my fault. Should I have made a concerted effort to say, like, this is the one place that we all communicate? And I don't know that I should have, because here's the other side of it. I miss it But don't you miss your kid when they go off to college or they go start a business and they move out and go off on their own and do their own thing? Don't you miss that? Don't you miss that? Would you have it any other way? What kind of parent are you if your son or your daughter's ready to go out and start building their own life and you, through manipulation, hold them back because you don't want them to leave and you still want them to be there for you? I mean, a movie's coming to my mind right now. It's a crazy, stupid, funny-ass movie, Adam Sandler. Remember The Water Boy and how his mama was, right? Like, aren't you kind of being that archetype parent if you're holding, if you are the reason your kids have failure to launch? And so even though I miss that, I kind of see like that, like having been a good parent of the community and letting the community fractionalize as it wants to, because there's even sub communities and pieces of the community that think Jack's a jerk now. Not in the good way either, right? We're done with him. We're through with him. But the people in that community, the majority of them, whatever they're doing, had TSP not been the genesis of that splinter group, they'd have never met each other. And I think that is better than having a central place where if you want to talk TSP and talk to Jack, you have to come to that central place. On the other hand, I wonder if maybe there's not a way that we could take a piece of that. You know, what is that? I love this. I love the live streams. But what I would love more is to be able to plug in to where I'm doing this stream and you're on Twitch, I can see you here. You're on YouTube, I can see you here. But what if we could all see each other? Like a separate chat that's easy, guys. All you techies out there, if it's over my head, it's way over 90% of the people's heads. I would love to get some sort of way that we can bring everybody together. But here's my thing. Unless I trust it, it's not happening. You know, I wouldn't use Facebook for this. I don't even know that I would use something like Discord or Telegram. I've thought about Telegram. But Discord, there's a way to do Discord. I'm not sure how, but there are people I follow, like Pirate Chain, that they do like basically a weekly podcast that's on Discord. And it's in other places too. And that would consolidate the discussion. That would be interesting. I would still have to use two screens, but maybe with a little bit of help. I'm just wondering if there's a way that we can get, because guys, again, I don't like the fact that right now there's probably, you know, a dozen people or something like that, or 3, who knows? I'm not even sure, watching me on Float. And I can't contact them and they can't contact me directly. I can't have 10 screens here and be multitasking like that. And I'm not Joe Rogan. I don't have a studio crew telling me what's happening and handling everything. I do this myself, right? And I don't like that I can't have that conversation. But I'm more concerned about the fact that Bill's over on Float, right? Michael's over on Rumble, and they can't talk to Chase on YouTube or Tom on YouTube, especially during the podcast. I think there'd be a lot of value in being able to do that. So I just wanted to point that out. And I wonder if anybody has any ideas, but it has to be something that the average person can just do. Now, I will tell you, if you hate YouTube, I understand. I'm not going to quit broadcasting there, though, because it's where I reach the most people with video. I really encourage some of y'all, and there we have somebody right now, Shataros, that is on on Twitch. I really can say that if you guys can get on Twitch, at least you're feeding into me, and I can do what I'm doing right now, and I can put you up there. And YouTube and Twitch are the two places that I can really see your content come in on my back and at least link you guys together. And there seems to be a lot of community tools on Twitch. I'm still learning about it, but it'd be interesting. Last, I want to give you a quick update on the supplements that I take. That ties into our item of the day today, and I know this is where a lot of you guys will tune out, but consider this content, not an advertisement, because I don't care where you buy it. But my item of the day today, you can find it at tspaz.com. That's tspaz.com. No matter what you buy, if you start there, you help support us. But it's a company called Solaray, and it's their zinc copper supplement. It's 50 milligrams of zinc and 2 micrograms of copper. And I've been recommending that since the early COVID days. And I've been doing that because if you take zinc and you get zinc into your cells, you're more resistant to any mRNA replicating virus. So that's garden variety flu, colds, etc. It's also the case, and this is not medical advice, and you shouldn't take any of this as medical advice, so I don't go to federal prison. But this is all scientific fact I'm giving you. The problem with zinc supplementation is, unless you get zinc inside a cell, it doesn't really do a lot to help prevent things like mRNA replicating viruses like the common cold. But if you get it in the cell, it's very effective at shutting down viral replication. So you need something called an ionophore. So the thing I paired with the zinc was quercetin, right? Quercetin. Peyton said, we'll get to that. I marked it up. And quercetin opens up a pathway into the cell so the zinc gets into the cell. There's scientific research that shows conclusively, this is not debatable, that zinc in your cells not just shuts down replication of viruses, it even shuts down or slows down or impedes the replication of many cancers. And all of us end up at times or another where we have cancers in our body. Cancer's the thing, it happens. The thing is, our immune systems are able to shut it down, to dispose of it, to get rid of it. And I think that's a very cool thing. Right. And I think that if we can take a thing that does that cheaply, we should do that. But when I started learning about zinc and I started recommending zinc, I had a doctor write me and I was like, oh boy, here it comes. It was like, this is medical advice from a medical professional about your COVID advice. And I was like, oh, okay, I know where this is going to go. I'm stupid. I don't know anything. I don't have a degree. He was very helpful. He actually said, I agree with just about everything you're recommending. So then I picked my jaw up off the floor, got my heart going again, and went, wow, okay, a doctor that listens. So I read what he had to say with intent. He said, the problem with the zinc recommendation is zinc can cause a copper deficiency. They compete in the gut. So I looked it up, and it's common medical knowledge that no one talks about. So I looked for a zinc that had copper in it at the right ratio. And this is the only one I found. That's also a highly absorbable form of zinc, a chelated zinc form. So I started recommending it, and that's my item of the day. You can find it at tspaz.com or thesurvivalpodcast.com. But I wanted to update you guys because I used to have this laundry list, and it was every immunosupport thing I could come up with because in the beginning, I thought COVID was BS as far as how big of a threat it was unless you were really sick or really old where you'd be having trouble with just about any respiratory virus. But I wasn't 100% sure, and I had a lot of you ask me, what can I do? So I had B12 and all types of stuff. And I was taking a lot of other supplements. And I have drastically reduced my supplement intake with no ill effects. And I wanted to tell you what I still take and why today. And you can find links for all of this in the write-up that I did with a product update today at tspaz.com. Number one, I still take quercetin and I take zinc. But I was taking a large amount of quercetin a day. I now take one quercetin and one zinc with the copper together every day because it's good for immunosupport. In my opinion, not medical advice, right? Backed by science, not medical advice, all right? But in my opinion, that's why I choose to do it for myself. And I don't do it because I'm worried about the COVID. I do it because I believe it's a good standard practice. And if there was like a wave of flu or something going through and I wanted to give myself a little more defense, might I up the quercetin a little bit? Yeah, I might, because it also is a strong antiviral by itself. But I just think it's a good practice. Take daily zinc supplementation. The average American is deficient in zinc. That's, again, scientific fact, not medical advice. But you can take tons of zinc. You can take zinc till you shit a zinc bar. If you can't get it into the cells, you don't get really the immunosupport you're looking for from it. Then I also take D3 and K2. I won't say the amounts. You can go through all the material I have for you on the site if you want to make the decisions for yourself. I also recommend 3 books, which I've added to the write-up as well. And I recommend you read them in order of kind of the basic to the advanced version, but at least read the basic one by Dr. Jordan Somerville, who I also have an interview you can listen to on why you should be taking D3. D3, I take in an amount that doctors would have their jaw drop and think I'm going to die and I'll be dead. And I can tell you my D3 levels have not gone into anything approaching a dangerous level doing this. It takes a lot of oral D3 to move blood levels if you're deficient. Okay? And if you're obese, it's almost guaranteed that you're deficient because you store it in your fat, so it's not freely flowing in your body. It's an amazing immunosupportive hormone that your body makes for itself. You can take too much of it, but you can take a lot more than they say you can take. But again, I'm not giving my doses. What I will tell you is for every 10,000 IUs of D3 I take a single K2, I think it's 100 milligrams. And the reason I don't buy the D3 K2 combo is pretty simple. Okay. They don't use the ratio I want to use. They use 5,000 to 1. I use 10,000 to 1 pill, right? So there's that. The other thing is that when we started taking the D3K and the K2, we found that my wife had some racing heartbeat things, and we're not sure if that's what did it. But when we did research, it turned out that people that take the MK7 K2 can have arrhythmias. And MK4, it seems to go away. So we went to MK4, and I could only get that by buying it individually. So I take every day quercetin, zinc, D3, and K2, and I take magnesium. I take a good multivitamin. That's it. That's all I take. I take the magnesium for other reasons I won't go into because this show's over 2 hours long now. And I also use a product called Sacred 7 mushroom powder, which has a lot of anti-cancer properties. That's my whole regime now. And it's very inexpensive. It's very easy to do. It's very low risk. And it's not medical advice. But if you want to know more, go to today's episode. There'll be a link in the show notes where you can learn all about it. With that, guys, I am going to wrap up today. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thanks to everybody that threw me a super chat. Let's go ahead and take the starred questions. Alan says, should we treat crypto like any other investment? I already did that one. But like I said, I mentioned it, but I didn't cover it. So I'll cover it now. Yes and no. Yes and no. And this is what I mean. I don't treat two ETFs the same. I don't treat two mid-cap stocks the same. I don't treat two growth and income stocks the same. I don't treat two large-cap stocks the same. I look at every investment for its individual value. And if I can't quantify the individual value in the investment, I don't buy it. I also look at a stock that I'm holding and I say, if I wouldn't buy this stock today, why am I holding it? Okay. So then that means I'll sell the stock and I'll buy one I would buy today and I'll hold that instead. I'll trade that stock. With Bitcoin, trying to be smarter than the market over time. I made some good trades and I made some bad trades. But after being in this market now, what is it, 6, 8 years? 8 years in earnest. 2013, I owned some, but 2014, I started to really accumulate and recommend. Every Bitcoin I didn't buy, every SAT I didn't buy when I could have was a mistake. Every day that I went in my business without accepting Bitcoin was a mistake. Every SAT I ever sold was a mistake. So every single Satoshi I ever sold was a mistake. Every SAT I ever spent, including the $5 I just gave to Jake, was a mistake. Okay? I'm willing to make some mistakes to evangelize the product. Every time I traded into an altcoin, even when it worked out, in my opinion, long-term, it was a mistake. All in, good and bad, if all I had done from day one was stack sats and never spend it, then I would be better off than I am today. And I've done well. I'm not crying here, okay? I made some trades. Like, I bought a bunch of Ethereum when Coinbase first picked it up, and it was like 97 cents. I didn't even know what it was. I was like, I got all this free Bitcoin that Coinbase gives me. I might as well buy some of this other Ethereum shit with it. That worked out really well. But in the end, in fact, that would be in the win column, right? That's a big win. And that money made me more money than if I left it in Bitcoin. So how's it a mistake? Because by doing all these individual things, the cumulative result in the end was less. The best trade I've ever made in my life, in my opinion, was when the Bitcoin Cash fork hit and I knew there'd be hype. I waited for the hype. I sold the Bitcoin Cash. I held dollars. I waited for a Bitcoin dip and I bought more Bitcoin. That's the ace trade. Are there trades that made me more money? Yep, but that was the ace trade. When I look back and I look at my stack today of sats, I go, wow, there's a lot in there from that. And so I treat all investments the same, and I treat every investment individually. And my investment philosophy with Bitcoin at this point is dollar cost average, keep buying and keep holding and never sell and get off the exchange. So it's the same but different, man. Adam Johnson, why the price drop recently in the crypto markets? Because the whole economy of the world's going into a shitstorm and everybody's freaking out and trying to raise capital. That's why. Do you think it was some other reason? You think it's because Willy Woo didn't hold his dowsing rods the right way or something, right? Like, no, it's the whole world is in a catastrophic event right now. People are worried about whether they're going to be able to feed their kids by August, especially in other parts of the world and definitely in this part of the world. And because we had so many people jump in with FOMO at the top of the market because Elon and everything else. That's why I've always, and when the market was at the top, I said, if you get in now, don't spend all your money, right? Buy it a little at a time over time. It's dropping because people are scared and liquidating. It's dropped because we have a shitload of people taking short positions. But the big reason, because the futures market is fueled by massive amounts of money through the approval of futures ETFs, which is what I said would happen. Remember when I said that? They brought in the futures ETF first. They're stalling on the spot ETF. When they approve the spot ETF, it's game over. It's multi-$100,000 Bitcoin within 6 months after it's approved. It's trillions of dollars that can pour into the market. But there is a lot of people, unlike many of y'all, I hate to be this way, but I'm telling you the truth. There's many of y'all, you've decided this must be bad because you didn't get in back then, and now you're bitter, and somebody told you have fun being poor, some other snarky remark, and you've become a Peter Schiff, and you've solidified in your position, and nothing will get through to you, right? There's a lot of people like that. There's a lot of people with a lot of money that have a lot of money because they don't think that way, and they're going, damn. This is going to be a global reserve asset, and I'm going to want to have as much of it as I can. And even though I have lots of money right now, if the price was lower, a small piece of that money would buy a lot more of it. And there's a flat-out conspiracy among the global elites to suppress the price, not to kill it, but to obtain it. That's my opinion. I have no proof of that. But I also had no proof when I said that these freaking mRNA vaccines would probably affect reproductive systems in women. It was just an instinct. I think this instinct is way more on than that one, and that one turned out to be right. That's the price drop. Jake Robinson said, this is why vertical indoor growing movement is by big tech, meat haters. He's talking about my whole thing about the river systems and where you can and can't grow stuff. I think the main driver of vertical indoor growing systems is actually that they can be really profitable and they solve a lot of problems when it comes to growing vegetables. Now, there are people that envision a day when we can grow wheat and rye and stuff like that in warehouses. And I don't know that that's very practical. I don't think humans really should be living off grain in the first place. I think grain is a very damaging crop. It's a very resource-intensive crop. But when you look at growing the most expensive produce, the most profitable produce, and you look at pest and disease, if I go to an indoor system, I solve 99% of my problems. My yields are predictable, and I can factory grow a product that I know I have a market for. And I think money is the bigger thing on that. Jake says, oh, no, my $5 of Bitcoin is now down to $5.94, $4.94. You know, if you buy more, you'll lower your average intake. And that one was free, Jake, so don't complain. Keith Stone said, what's the difference between a libertarian and an anarchist? About a year. I want to say something on that. If you anarchists will stop being absolute dickheads to the libertarians who are being nice to you, it is about a year. If you're shitheads and you tell them how stupid they are, it's a lot longer than a year and maybe never. Don says a libertarian believes that it's wrong to hurt people and take their stuff. An anarchist also believes that but they believe there are no exceptions. I completely agree that you cannot wear a costume and change that rule. Thomas says taxation is only theft for those who don't buy into the system. If you're a true believer status, then it's not theft for you. I agree. And this is why I have a difference of opinion with people who say 100% exit the system. I am not completely outside of the system. And that is by design. It is not because I can't. If I wanted to, I could 100% bank in Bitcoin. I could. I'd make less money in the end. My net would go down. I could be one of these people that drives around with no driver's license with my own homemade identification. I could even be in the system a little bit like a gentleman I met at Float Fest who said, yeah, I don't have a license, but my car has a license plate, because if it didn't, right, if I didn't have a plate, I'm just asking to be pulled over. I'm asking for more confrontation. That's dumb. So he has a trust that owns his vehicle. And of course, they'll give him tags for the vehicle because they want their money. I could do that. I could say I'm not a citizen of the United States, even though the government would still say that I am. I could be completely outside the system. Why am I not completely outside the system? Because it benefits me to be part of it. And it benefits me to understand the system, as well as the people that wrote the rules for themselves in the system, and to use the rules the way they do. It benefits me to focus on the 95% of the tax code that tells me how not to do what the 5% tells me I have to do. It benefits me by having a business and turning a tremendous amount of my life legally, with not even bending the rules into moving into the expense side of the balance sheet. It benefits me because so many of you, if I only took Bitcoin, wouldn't be members. It benefits me because if I didn't do some of the referral and affiliate stuff that I do, I wouldn't have that income. It benefits me. So the taxes I pay, I believe all tax is theft. But I also believe I'm choosing to have the theft extorted upon me. And I have made a simple business calculation. I've made a simple business calculation. By participating as I see fit, I am better off. And I'm not better off at the expense of somebody else. I'm not participating in gaining some sort of no-bid contract or something like that. I'm not anybody's employee. I either sink or swim all by myself. You guys are my boss. Now, if one of you tells me to screw off, okay, bye. See you. Don't let the door hit you in the ass. But if you all tell me to screw off, I'm screwed. I can't make it without you guys. I serve my market. And the reason I don't have all of you leave an exodus at once, like I had like a 50% exodus. Like I had 2 big exoduses in my career. And they weren't my mistakes. My mistakes were mostly forgiven. I've done some things I tried to make work that didn't work. They were mistakes. Getting involved with Rob Gray and a Mulligan Mint was a freaking mistake. I lost him, but not a big loss. You know, Perma Ethos not working out, it wasn't that big of a loss. Like, people didn't abandon me for it. They understood what I was trying to do. No, my big exoduses were, I no longer believe in the political system. That was a half of the audience left. I soon rebuilt it, but half the audience plumb up and left. The other one was COVID. When I said, stop freaking out. You're supposed to be preppers. You're supposed to be prepared for this. This isn't that big a deal and you're going to be fine. I didn't lose half my audience, but I lost enough to notice. And I saw the conversation. Screw him, screw him. I wonder where those people are now. I wonder how many of them kind of came back in through the back door and didn't let me know. Because it turned out I wasn't crazy after all. And I was telling them the truth. People don't like the truth when it doesn't fit what they have to say. But I'm agreeing with Thomas. If you are a true believer and you think this is the price we pay for a civilized society or whatever, and you just fill out your 1040 and you get all your money taken from you that they can possibly take, it's not really theft because you've chosen to believe. I guess that's a difference. Even where I choose to participate, I don't choose to believe. Troy says it takes 8 days to get more than $1,000 off. 8 days to get more than $1,000 off of where? Strike? Doesn't apply. If you follow my rules, it can never matter. What are my rules? Buy it, take it. Done. Okay, how much can you buy a week? $1,000 a week on strike. So how much can you withdraw? $1,000 a week on strike. So if you always withdraw what you buy, you can always withdraw all that you buy. Now, if you're starting to use strike like a merchant account, you're taking payments there. Don't do that. Take payments direct to your wallet, and it won't matter. K-Bonk says, tons of FUD about the whole crypto system. Oh, there is. There is. And I want to be clear about something when I'm so adamant that Bitcoin is the place to be with your money. I do not believe for a minute that all other cryptos will go to zero. I don't believe that. And I think people that say that are in denial of reality. And I don't believe none of them have any utility. I think a Tether, for example, has a utility. It enables trading of Bitcoin for people who want to trade. It also enables you to use Lightning rails to send dollars anywhere in the world. It's pretty good utility. The absolute anonymity of Pirate Chain or Monero, that's a utility. As private as we can make Bitcoin, 100% private's even better, right? So I think there's a value to that. Ethereum does some cool shit, even though I pick on it. And I do think it's a $10,000 to $20,000 asset when all this crap they're going through gets done, assuming it gets done right, and I believe it will be. What its long-term future is, I don't know, because there's some other assets out there, like Atom, that, man, everything Ethereum's trying to do, they can already do faster and cheaper. But Ethereum has first-mover advantage in that market. There's some interesting technologies. They're going to become securities, though. Tokenization has immense opportunities. NFTs. When we get away from using NFTs for JPEGs or GIFs, and we start using them for things that actually have real value, there's tremendous opportunity there. You want the easy button? Stack sats. The rest of it's a casino. I believe if you follow my advice, dollar cost average, buy Bitcoin, it goes down, buy more. So I think you should have like a certain amount I'm going to buy every month. And then when you get a big dip, find more, buy harder. Sleep faster, buy harder, man. Like that's my, I believe if you do that, there's no way 5 years from now, 10 years from now that you regret that decision. I don't think I've ever recommended an investment as strongly as I recommend Bitcoin for that, because it has a track record. People right now are freaking out over a 50% drop and going, oh my God, off an all-time high, by the way. If it goes further, it could go to zero. Guys, since I've been in, and I'm OG, but I'm not that OG, right? We've had 5 of those. 11 years in total, there's been like 6 of those. I've been through 4 or 5. This will be the 5th one. So counting this one, I've been through this 5 times. I made a meme one time, and it was a mom and a kid on a roller coaster, and they're going down on the roller coaster, and mom's just beaming, laughing, and the kid's eyes are like rolled back. He's freaked out. And I'm like, bought Bitcoin now and bought Bitcoin in 2014. We've been on this roller coaster, and we're okay with going down. We know what comes next. Can you tell exactly with math how Bitcoin futures ETFs suppress prices? You can, but it's not. I'm not that math guy. But what you can do is you can look at all the futures ETFs in their prospectus. They actually state when and how they're going to do what they do. So then traders can completely snipe that. They know how much money's in because it's public. So you can see exactly how much money they control, when they're going to execute their contracts, and what their strategy is. And you have a rolling knowledge of the futures market with a huge piece of money, so people can come in and short or long the market with options and leverage with a lot of reliability. Now, how does a spot ETF fix that? A spot ETF is no more for you. The way ETFs are regulated, unlike this whole exchange thing, which is still highly unregulated, where basically both people have claims to the same Bitcoin until somebody takes it off the exchange, the way these ETFs will work with a spot ETF, that Bitcoin that you say you have for Bill and his 401k, let's say he rolls some money in and he buys 2 whole Bitcoins, it's his. Now, it's not his, it's custodial, but it's allocated. It cannot be allocated to Bill and Tom, only Bill. So effectively, even though somebody will be custodying it, it will be, in a sense, cold stored. It's off the game. You're taking pieces off the game board long-term, if not permanently. And that's what really offsets, because Bitcoin, there's no inflation. Bitcoin has like a 1.7%, I think the inflation rate is right now. Somewhere in the 1.7, 2.3. Both of those numbers are in my head for a reason. Maybe it's 2.3 now and will be 1.7 after the next halving. Maybe it was 2.3 and went to 1.7, or I don't know. But there is an inflation rate. But if the money is being taken out faster than it's being created, you have a negative inflation before the inflation even stops, because it will inflate to like 21 something. Right, until the last Bitcoin is mined. But that number keeps dropping with each halving. And guys, the next halving, we're halfway to the next halving. That supply shock is going to be epic. And there's another stat. There's another stat, guys. Big stat. There's never been as much Bitcoin held that hasn't moved for over a year as there is right now, even with all this shakeout. And what's happening right now, all these people selling lower, 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 and lower out of fear. And there's two things. There's fear selling. But most of the people that are afraid and talking shit, they're still not selling. They know better in the end. It's leveraged options expiring that are really driving this price down. And it's designed. And who's buying it? We're watching billions of dollars in single transactions, hundreds of millions here, tens of millions there, billions there, accumulate on an exchange and go off to a single place. We may not know who has it, but that's not a little fish. That's a whale. The whales are accumulating now. And if you think about it, if you're selling, you're playing to the whales. The whales control everything. And what happened? In the last 3 years, the balance between whales and minnows shifted. Even with the Elon Musks and the Michael Saylors, the whales had less of a percentage of the Bitcoin. Well, they were happy to get rid of some of it when it was 60 grand, and they're happy to buy it back at 30. You're playing into their hands. Lockheed Raytheon already on Weekend News Show as provider of weapons to defeat USSR. Wow. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the USSR is back, I guess. Peyton says, what does No Agenda have? Mastodon server troll chat. And they do. Absolutely. Is my granddaughter saying goodbye to me. They're going somewhere. Where are you going?
To gymnastics. She's
going to gymnastics. Okay, Pooh, you go to gymnastics.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, a little visit there as we wrap up. Yeah. I've been interested in Mastodon. I understand the whole like federation thing. So like you're on Mastodon, you have your thing, and you choose the groups you federate with in that vol. I just wonder like how hard is that for the average person? Like what I've always liked about most of the social media out there is even if I don't like the company, you go to the site, you sign up for an account, you start friending people up or somehow connecting with people, and you just use it. Like when people get into a situation where they have to have technical ability, I think participation drops. Boy, this is a long episode today. Mike says, Jack, invest in solar panels or Bitcoin first. Well, your solar panels will be worth less over time. Sorry, it's true. They will have less value over time. They're a depreciating asset, and Bitcoin is an appreciating asset that will be worth more money over time. But they give you the solar panels, give you the utility of energy. Bitcoin gives you the ability to store your life force, your financial energy. Which one's more important to Mike? Which one's more important to Mike? That's the question you have to ask. But I will tell you this. If you wait a year to buy solar panels, they'll cost less. If you wait a year to buy Bitcoin right now, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it will cost more a year from now, that we will be up from here 1 year out. We will be less than a year from the next halving at that point, and our economy will be in deeper shit than it ever has before. If you buy the solar panels, if you don't buy the solar panels today and you wait 3 years, I know they will cost you less. And if you buy Bitcoin now, I cannot even conceive of a place where it wouldn't cost more in 3 years. So I want you to look at it a different way. I have the capital to buy a thing, and I'm choosing between Bitcoin and the thing. If I was already holding Bitcoin, and for some magical reason I could spend it and buy the other thing and not pay tax on it, I could avoid the capital gains and spend the Bitcoin. Would I spend the Bitcoin to buy the thing right now? And that might sound like a totally different question, but it's the same question. I have cash. I'm going to buy solar panels or Bitcoin. Imagine you already bought the Bitcoin. Would you spend it? And if the answer is no, then Mike should know what to do for Mike. But in the end, Mike has to make that decision. Adam says, should I take a loan from my local cash advance bank to buy Bitcoin? I wouldn't. Adam has to make that decision. I remember way back when Bitcoin was like $300. some guy was made pretty famous for being stupid. He took out a loan on his house for $335,000. Went all in on Bitcoin. Everybody said he was very stupid. Well, it's a mortgage. A pretty small nut to make to pay it back over 30 years. He's looking pretty smart right now. But you are then leveraging, right? And you're leveraging what I would guess would be a fairly high interest short-term loan. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. And Tom says, Adam Harner, no. So Tom gave him a very direct answer, and it's pretty much the same way. Shatero says, I can't find the Trezor wallet on Amazon. Do you have a reviewed item of the day? I have not specifically recommended a wallet because I think of it as a very personal choice as to how much you need to hold, as far as like some wallets, the lower versions of the same brand, you know, only hold like 7 cryptos, and maybe that works for you. Maybe you're a Bitcoin only person. But I will say this, Trezor or Ledger, you can't go wrong with either. And if you're wanting to buy from Amazon just to go through TSPAS and support me, and you need something and it's not on Amazon, don't wait. Go buy what you need. And like, I'm about to buy a chamber vacuum sealer, and I don't know which one yet, but I've narrowed it down to a couple, and now I have a third one I'm looking at because Nicole has the third one, and I'm not sure. But I found it on Amazon, and then I found it on Webstaurant, and it's cheaper on Webstaurant by like $200. And if I end up buying it, I will review it because it's something that's like a major prepper item that I think most people could benefit from. I will not recommend you buy something on Amazon that costs you $200 more. If the price rectifies, then I'll say, hey, it's on Amazon now and you can get it for a fair price. But do not ever feel like you owe me going through any of my links to buy anything that I recommend, period. Mike says, do you think Satoshi's Bitcoin should be marked as non-fungible to give more credence to the market? No. I don't think, first of all, I don't think that any Bitcoin should ever be marked non-fungible. There are exchanges that have basically said, we will not allow this Bitcoin to be exchanged on our exchange. Like it's been tagged as bad or black or whatever. It still can be used. And I love that there's like a lot of money. There's a ton of Bitcoin. And for those that don't know the story, when Satoshi started it and everybody was mining it, he was mining it. So since he coded it and he was probably one of the best at mining it, he mined a lot of it. Now, if you're mining Bitcoin on day one, your little laptop makes a bunch of Bitcoin because that's how it worked. The way Bitcoin worked is like for the first period, it was highly inflationary. There's more, like millions of Bitcoin came out, and then it cut in half. And every 4 years, it cuts in half again. That's the halving. That's what that means. And so Satoshi, in the early days when he was, still working on it and communicating about it and giving his vision for it, he mined a shitload of it. And since it's public and we know the addresses he mined to, it's never moved. And this leads to a conspiracy theory. Did the CIA, the United States government, the central bank actually created Bitcoin? Because how altruistic would you have to be to have billions of dollars and never spend a penny of it? So here's a crazy conspiracy theory. And I'll tell you, I think it's low probability, but if it's true, it would make it more important to own Bitcoin than not. Let's say the United States government did create Bitcoin. And they did it kind of like the internet. Like we know it will take from us, but we're more concerned about what it can give to us, not the ability to track people. Because if that was the case, it would be a lot less pseudonymous, right? You would have built things into it that, and I'm sorry, being open source code, where like the greatest coders in the world can look at it. There's people, they live to find the one thing that can prove that they're smarter than everybody else. And they're tearing through this code all the time, looking for any backdoor or something like that. But here would be an interesting conspiracy theory. United States creates Bitcoin. Satoshi is the CIA. Satoshi is the Federal Reserve, something like that. And it says, okay, we know we're going to train wreck the global economy. Because I was telling you in 08, there's no getting out of this economy. Like, it has to be rebased. So they mine, you know, millions and millions of Bitcoin, put it in these addresses. Satoshi disappears. Poof, he's gone. And one day, the United States government says, somehow, magically, we got Satoshi's Bitcoin. Maybe they say Satoshi came back, realized how bad the economy was, and said, this is what I built Bitcoin for. And he gave it to us. And there's transfers. And they put it on the central bank balance sheet. They make it the United States reserve currency. And they have more than any other nation or any other entity in the world immediately. Asymmetric financial warfare. Now, people would go, if that's true, man, it's the devil's money or whatever. No. So what you're telling me is it will be the currency of the world, and you don't want any of it. It's the currency of the world. There will only be 21 million of them, and you don't want any of it. And well, then that would mean they can inflate it. No, it wouldn't. The code is the code. And you can have half the Bitcoin. You don't have half the hash power. And this is I'll tell you what really makes Bitcoin the asymmetric warfare weapon of choice. It's the only weapon that's ever existed that the more your enemy uses it, the more powerful you become if you have it too. So if I have nuclear bombs and I'm the only person with the nuclear bombs, I can take over the world. Do what I say, mushroom cloud. Next person is going to do what I say. But if more than one person has the ability to make mushroom clouds, the weapons actually neutralize each other. They're less powerful, unless the goal really is peace, right? You have this standoff. Unless you have one crazy person in the game of freaking what do they call that shit? Mexican standoff, willing to pull the trigger, right? And then the chain reaction comes. But with Bitcoin, if the United States government adopts it that way or any way, the value of my stack goes up, and so does yours. And that's where people are like, I don't want the banks using it. I don't want this. If you want it to succeed, you want it to be so powerful that everybody feels like they have to use it. Russia's buying Bitcoin. Somebody says, I got to go, guys, man. This has been long. Watching on a serious delay, Jack Matrix allows other platforms to port in their chat rooms like YouTube, Telegram, Facebook, etc. I hope this helps. Matrix. I'll have to look into that. It would be kind of cool to have like one place where anywhere you're watching this, it all comes together and you can all communicate with each. That's more important than you communicating with me, I think. Okay, that's it, guys. I am out. Wow, this was crazy long today. I didn't have time for it, but I enjoyed chatting with you. I feel like there's a lot going on in the world. And today we went through the craziness. I don't know what, but tomorrow I'm bringing you practical. I'm bringing you something that you can do, and it won't be go buy Bitcoin. With that, guys, have a great day. It's been a great episode.